Trump's bizarro version of the Kennedy Center, and how over 1,000 UK musicians are protesting their country's plan to let AI access copyrighted music. Later in the show, it's our first Ask the Auditor with Diana DiZoglio. All that ahead, Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. House Republicans narrowly passed a framework for a federal budget last night. It includes billions in spending for all of President Trump's domestic priorities. It also calls for $4.5 trillion in tax cuts. Texas Democratic Congresswoman Veronica Escobar says poor Americans will pay for it.
It will make America poorer, sicker, and hungrier. It will close hospitals and clinics. It will kick seniors out of nursing homes. It ends support for Americans with disabilities. It will double health care costs and more. That's just the Medicaid portion of it.
The Republicans' plan also dramatically boosts the federal debt limit by $4 trillion. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says the framework of a deal with the U.S. on critical raw materials is ready, but the details are still being worked out. NPR's Joanna Kakissis reports Zelensky says he's working on setting up talks with President Trump that could happen as soon as Friday.
Speaking to reporters at the presidential palace in Kyiv, Zelensky said that the framework agreement under discussion is a first step toward a full agreement. Many details remain to be worked out, including which raw materials the U.S. will receive, as well as what kind of security guarantees Ukraine will get in return. Zelensky said the priority is not to lose the U.S. as a main guarantor of security for Ukraine. President Trump has said he wants Ukraine to pay for aid the U.S. has already given it, citing a price tag that is much higher than the actual amount. Zelensky said he won't agree to such terms. Joanna Kakissis, NPR News, Kyiv.
President Trump has posted a video online. The apparently AI-generated video includes a depiction of the president and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu sunbathing in Gaza. This comes weeks after Trump suggested the U.S. should take over the enclave and Palestinians should leave. NPR's Sarah McCammon reports the leader of a Michigan-based group of Arab and Muslim business leaders is demanding that Trump take the video down.
The video posted to Trump's Truth Social account depicts imagined scenes of the rubble in Gaza being transformed into a glitzy resort called Trump Gaza. In one image, men in drag appear to dance in bikinis on the beach. In another, Trump is shown dancing with a scantily clad woman before lounging poolside with Netanyahu. In a statement, Faye Nemmer, who is the CEO and founder of the MENA American Chamber of Commerce in Dearborn, Michigan, called the video, quote, offensive and counterproductive to peace talks. Nemmer, who says she voted for Trump in November, is calling on him to remove the video and issue what she describes as a reconciliatory statement. Sarah McCammon, NPR News.
You're listening to NPR News from Washington.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey told business leaders this morning that the Trump administration's plan to cut National Institutes of Health funding is a matter of life or death for residents, not to mention it being a potentially devastating threat to the Massachusetts economy. Healey spoke to the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce, saying it's the people who have cancer, Alzheimer's, diabetes, and heart disease, and more who will suffer greatly, and that everyone should understand what's at stake from a health as well as economic standpoint. Yesterday, the governor pulled together top healthcare, life sciences, and academic leaders for a private State House meeting to discuss threats to the NIH and to federal funding. MBTA General Manager Phil Eng says that when the South Coast Rail begins service in late March, weekend trips will be free through the end of April. Eng made the announcement to the MBTA Board of Directors during his monthly board meeting, adding that he's super excited about starting commuter rail service from Boston to Fall River, New Bedford, and Taunton, an area of the state that has not seen passenger rail since 1958. In sports, the Celtics are in Detroit tonight for a game against the Pistons. Exhibition baseball, Red Sox and Tampa Bay Rays play this afternoon. That game is a 1 o'clock start. In the forecast, mostly sunny, high near 50 degrees today. We could see some light rain overnight, low 35, and then we do have rain on tap for tomorrow. Temperatures in the upper 40s, close to 50, sun, clouds, and mid-40s on Friday. 47 degrees in Boston right now. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Capital One with the Capital One Saver Card. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Details at CapitalOne.com. And the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation at macfound.org.
He's Jim Browdy. I am Marjorie Egan. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. 1 o'clock today, a little programming note. We're going to be joined by Diana DiZoglio, the state auditor, for the first ever Ask the Auditor, taking our questions and your questions. And next Wednesday, back here at the Boston Public Library, going to be joined by Andrea Campbell, the Attorney General, for another edition of Ask the Attorney General. Hey, Jim.
Hey, Marjorie. So we're going to take a bit of a Trump break, at least for 30 minutes until Jared gets here and we talk about the Kennedy Center. We did not do phone-free February for the first 26 days of the month. And to be completely honest, even if we were to start engaging in phone-free February now, with only 2 days left in the month, we would both fail. But we're opening the lines to talk to you about your phone use at 877-301-8970. Around Greater Boston, establishments are fighting the dominant sports bar culture by instituting phone bans, like something in my neighborhood, Zuzu's Pedals in Cambridge. It's a wine bar and chocolate cake kind of bar thing, which bills itself as, quote, a screen-free wine and dessert bar. In a new study, this is incredible. Researchers found that people who just used an app to block internet access on their phone for only 2 weeks, Marjorie, reported a significant boost to mental health, focus, and well-being. And if you are somewhat depressed, this is even more incredible.
Yeah.
Cutting off your phone internet use for 2 weeks has more benefit than taking antidepressant medication. It's unbelievable. We can't even make it 2 minutes here on BPR, but can you, and would you go out of your way to support phone-free restaurants, or would you take out your phone immediately and write them a strongly worded review on Yelp that they'll probably never read? And while we're at it, speaking of screens, how about going to a high-end restaurant, spending a lot of money, and have the Celtics game blaring over the bar in the damn thing? I mean, really?
Which high-end restaurant is that?
Many. 877-301-8970. And one last
Jim
thing.
spends a lot of time at high-end
I
restaurants.
tried to. If you're a parent, how do you navigate the screens that are omnipresent at restaurants? Or do you lean fully in, handing your kid a chicken finger and an iPad so you can just get 30 minutes of silence to enjoy your margaritas? 877-301-8970.
One of these stories had a great picture of the parents that were trying to do screen-free at dinner. They're out to dinner. The kids are underneath the table, and they're kicking their mother, they're kicking their father, they're fighting underneath the booth. I mean, it was I get why people do it, though. I get why if you go out, I mean, in the pre-screen days, you always bring toys for your kids to play with while you're out to dinner. But I get it, because it keeps them quiet for the whole time.
Do you ever consciously, I know you lose your phone all the time, so it's sort of unintentional no phone use. Do you ever consciously say, I'm not going to do my phone for even 2 hours or 4 hours?
Yes, if I'm trying to work.
And how much of a benefit do you feel?
Well, I get work done if I'm trying to work on something and concentrate on something or write something. Put my phone in the other room for like 2 hours, and then go check it after 2 hours to see if somebody, because the interruptions, you can't concentrate with the constant interruptions. At least I can't.
Yeah. Okay.
How about you, Jim?
What do you mean? No, I'm borderline addicted. I'm not. I've told this story before, but I haven't told it in a few years, so don't yell at me. I went to Costa Rica. I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago.
To one of those high-end restaurants?
No, actually, it was an eco-friendly resort.
Oh.
So it was a high-end resort. The Celtics were not on TV. But let me tell you, I flew in one of those little planes of this thing.
Oh, I hate those.
Oh, my God.
Nerve-wracking.
Forget the phones. Yeah. Okay, in any case, I was in San Jose where the phone worked, which is the capital, then fly into this the coastal thing, where you can't have a thing. So for 10 days or a week or something, I didn't have a phone. And I was convinced either I thought semi-rationally or out of a feeling of self-importance that neither I nor the world could go without me on my phone.
That's right.
And when I got back there, I did have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of texts and emails, not one of which couldn't wait the 7 or 10 days. So I think the proof is in the proverbial pudding.
What they say in these stories is not so much the phone calling and the texting, it's the scrolling, the internet. I mean, if you had an old-fashioned flip phone, you'd be much better off than we are now.
And
constantly.
when you go to a restaurant, even if you're not using your phone, if somebody at the next table is incessantly nonstop, doesn't it drive you? Even if they're not talking on it.
It drives me nuts. And what's really awful is if you look at a couple out to dinner and they're both on their phones during the whole dinner. The place sounds very nice, where it's just wine and dessert.
Wine and dessert.
It doesn't make clear in the story, though, whether they take your phones from you or you're just not allowed to take them out, or what
I think you're not allowed to take them out.
With people that I hadn't seen in a really long time.
Wow.
So essentially, Andrea, so the Lord got you to do it. Is that the bottom line?
Did you cheat on Sunday?
The Lord saved my internet addiction.
Okay,
that's fabulous.
Because this is a big debate. With Lent, do you have the day off on Sunday, or do you go all 40 days?
No, we go all 40 days.
Wow.
I am a Congregationalist, and so I think that Sunday thing was originally a Catholicism.
Yeah.
But where I'm congregational, it was never introduced to us.
This is Marjorie's kind of conversation, Andrea. She loves this kind of
I
talk.
just think it's incredible to do it for 40 days. Good for you, Andrea.
Andrea, that was great. Great way to start.
It's been really incredible.
You also
Thank
sound
you.
calmer
Have a
than
great
most
day,
of our
guys.
callers, and I think that's probably it. By the way, I didn't know the answer to your question. What happens if you take your phone out at Zazu's? Aiden does know. He says if you get caught with the phone at Zazu's, they dunk it in a pitcher of Pinot Grigio. So that is the answer to the question.
But the mental health thing is huge.
Huge.
Yeah, I mean, talking about people's subjective well-being improving, and that didn't they say that this could work, as you said at the beginning, as well as antidepressants?
No, not as well. Better, they say. If you're suffering from some depression symptoms, that it works better. I don't know how much better than antidepressant meds, which is pretty incredible. 877-301-8970. I know phones are supposed to be our major focus. Forget high-end restaurants. Doesn't it drive you nuts when you go to a restaurant when the televisions are blaring? Go to a sports bar if you want to watch a baseball game.
A lot of bars have TVs.
Well, it's a bar.
on.
If you go to a bar, fine. But if you go to a restaurant, do you really need like a sporting event or more discussion of whether Tom Brady should come back at 50?
But we're all addicted to sound. I mean, how many times if you go into your house and the house is empty, you turn the TV on right away or the radio on right away? We don't like quiet. We don't like silence.
I have on a loop, by the way, I didn't tell you this, in my house because of that sound thing. When I enter my house automatically, I have a loop of all my Greater Boston shows why does Jamie find that funny? It's very soothing for me and anybody who happens to come into the house.
Let's go to
I find it soothing.
Dominic from Woonsocket, Rhode Island.
Hey, Dominic, what's up?
Hey, guys. Long time, second time. How are you today?
Thank you very much. We're good. Thanks. What's up?
Good. My big thing is I'd love to disconnect from my cell phone. I'm old enough to remember a time when we didn't have cell phones, and it's work that keeps me connected to it. As a supervisor, I haven't even gone into work yet, and I've already gotten 10 text messages. When I get to work, or a lot of the staff when they get to work, they have to use their phones to clock in and out. A lot of the applications we use at work require you to two-factor authenticate all the time. So, one time I forgot my phone at home. I got to work. I had to go all the way back home to get it because I couldn't work. I literally couldn't work because I couldn't two-factor authenticate because I needed my phone. And work keeps you connected.
Yeah, but Dominic, the work-related mandated things, the timesheet, whatever you said, the check-in, that I'm not saying it's fine, but it's fine comparatively speaking. What this survey that we're talking about shows that even if you're on your phone, if you stay away from the internet for a couple of weeks, which I think your people and you could do, is really beneficial. So it's sort of splitting the baby kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, I guess, but still, with everything being so phone-based, it's like if you're forced to have it with you at all times.
Dominic, how soon after you
put it down?
How soon after you wake up do you check your phone?
Pretty much right away because I oftentimes get text messages even before I wake up.
Yeah, I text Marjorie before I'm even awake every morning. Just to
I
get
always
the
look
day
forward
started.
to those.
Dominic, thank you. Here's a good one.
Nancy in Medford.
Well, you read that one.
I resent that I have to take my phone with me at all times, not because I want to be reachable, but because everyone assumes I'm ready to react to their every text. I just went for a walk without my phone, untethered. I mean, that's the other thing, too. People expect you to call or text them back almost immediately if you text them, and that's really kind of hemming you in, isn't it?
Hemming you in. Anonymous says, I consciously take a screen break. This is actually quite admirable. Every day between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., I call it sleep, which is
That's right.
about the only
But you
time.
can set the things on your phone, right, to say you're in your sleeping mode, but you can make exceptions for sleeping modes of certain calls.
If you wake up in the
get
middle of the
through.
night to do whatever it is one does in the middle of the night, do you check your phone?
I always look at what time it is.
Yeah, and do you check your phone a little bit to see what's happening?
I don't check my phone to see what's happening. No, I don't. I'm not as big of a scroller, but I do I look for texts.
You
That kind
do?
of stuff. Yeah, you make sure nobody called you in the middle of the night. You're supposed to be able to, if you have your kids or something, you want to be able to have them get in touch with you. But
Yeah, sure.
yeah,
How many times have you gotten a text in the middle of the night from your kid that you really couldn't have waited
Never.
for? Never,
Never.
not once, right? Not once,
never,
ever.
not once. Barrett in Cambridge, thank you for calling.
Hey, Barrett.
So many good points have already come up.
Well, keep adding to them.
Okay, so this is the thought experiment that I give people when we talk about this. If you're old enough to have lived as an adult without a cell phone, just remember what you did first thing in the morning before you ever had a cell phone.
What?
If you're, well, just think
That's
about
like
it.
an
What did you do?
exercise, she
Try
means.
to remember.
Okay.
Okay, so what I used to do before I had a cell phone is I would look out the window and see what the weather was like. I would pour a cup of coffee and sit quietly. I might do a little bit of reading or yoga, or I'd hop in the shower right away. But I wouldn't ever just get distracted and scroll.
Yeah.
And so I think like 90% of the world now gets up and looks at their cell phone.
They
and
do.
lose time.
They do. You're grown up, Barrett.
And it's-
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, just think about the first way you start the day and how you end the day. And if you have little kids, how they see you start your day. And I try to be a little more mindful when I think about what life used to be like before a cell phone.
That's an excellent exercise. Barrett, we got to let you go only because your connection is a little foggy there. Thank you very much. I just looked up when cell phones were invented, which is useless because the date of invention is 1973. When did they go into major use? In the 90s?
Well, I think it was.
When was the iPhone invented?
I think it was 2012.
When was it? 2007?
2007.
It's only been 17 years?
Yeah.
That is pretty incredible,
Yeah,
isn't it?
well, that's when everything started to go off the rails. We can all blame Steve Jobs, who was kind of an odd guy himself.
I think it was 2016 when all things started to go off the rails, if
Okay,
you know what
well,
I mean.
yeah, they're really
And they
going
still
off
are.
the
They're
rails
really
now.
good. Exactly.
So Dana Randolph says, my wife and I do weekly pub trivia where cell phones are taboo, and it's a nice two-hour break to catch up.
Because it's cheating, right?
Yeah, yeah. And then somebody else says they do not like the idea, Barbara from Wilmington does not like the idea of getting judged for being on her phone at a restaurant. She and her husband have flexible jobs, and they like, I guess, to be on their phone when they're out at a restaurant. She does not want to be judged, Jim.
Do you remember, were you and I at Golden Temple one day preparing in Brookline? What was the
Yes,
restaurant
well,
we went to?
You get into a fight.
I didn't get into a fight. I didn't get into, it
It
was not a gynecologist, first of all. And if it was, I don't know what that has to do with it.
That was a different person.
Okay, good. It's fine.
Oops, wasn't you.
No, that person
Sorry.
is an anti-gynecologist kind of person. I am not. I'm not either pro nor anti-gynecologist.
Okay.
Do you remember when the person at the next
They
table
were
was
really
speaking
loud, really
loudly
yeah.
on their phone?
That's right.
One of us did not have the courage
Yeah.
to walk over
And
and
Jim
ask
went
them to
over.
be quiet, and I
yeah,
went over
that's right.
and did it.
Yeah, that
Okay.
worked out well. Did they stop?
No, they did not. They did not.
They talk louder.
They did not stop.
That's what happened there.
Okay, we got to take a break.
Okay,
Margaret.
let's take a break. We're talking
Yeah.
about the phone-free life. The fact that we have learned through research that if you can get away from your phone, is it for 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
You are going to be more mentally stable and less depressed, and that phone-free living is something that many of us should be aspiring to. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, and broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library.
Vietnam is trying to rein in corruption. Government officials and CEOs found guilty of it are facing sentences of decades in prison or even death.
The anti-corruption campaign, Blazing Furnace, is in a class all by itself.
How Operation Blazing Furnace is going and how the public is reacting. Next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And Mass General Brigham Health Plan, ranked #1 in member satisfaction among commercial health plans in Massachusetts by J.D. Power for the second consecutive year. Details at mgbhp.org/everyday. And Rockport Music, presenting music at the Shalinlu Performance Center. On March 4th and 5th, the Irish tenors, joined by pianist and string quartet, will share Irish ballads and classic songs with the audience. Details at rockportmusic.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Mark Regan, Jim Browdy. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. 1 o'clock today. The auditor's been on with us a lot, Diana DiZoglio. We've never taken calls with her. We're doing that today. You can actually ask a question right here at the library. I don't know where the mic. Oh, there's a mic. Ask a question here at the library, call in, text in, etc. We'll try that out for a half hour today and see what goes. We may expand in the future. And next one, what day is today? Wednesday?
Wednesday.
A week from today at 1 o'clock, the Attorney General, who, by the way, one of her big issues is around this question, which we'll discuss, the ballot question mandating the auditing of the legislature. We'll talk to Andrea Campbell about a bunch of things, the AG, including this. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about screens in our lives, particularly there's 2 days left in phone-free, whatever it is, February. And we want to know if you've done it in the past, have you benefited from it, do you feel better? All things screen-free, 877-301-8970. Anonymous just texted, said, just came back from a week away with my family, 4 teenagers, myself and my husband, went on a cruise, which in and of itself is hell on earth, but that's not them. This is me talking. Went on a cruise, did not purchase the internet package, and it was the best 7 days ever. No mindless scrolling. We all hung out and had a fabulous time together. That's actually quite nice. 877-301-8970.
Maria in Sandwich, thank you for calling.
Hi, Maria.
Oh, hi.
Ooh, hi.
What do we say? First time, long time?
If it's true, you should, yeah. Is it?
Yeah, it is.
Great. Nice to have you.
So I have a very young child. I have a 17-month-old.
Yeah.
And in June, when he was 9 months old, we traveled with family to the vineyard for a vacation for a week. And I realized just as we were about to get on the ferry that I had left my phone at the house.
My gosh.
And, but it turned out really nicely. I mean, we had a beautiful vacation on the vineyard no matter what. And I just happened to go phone free for that week.
You know what, Maria, I wonder with the 17-month-old, children are fascinated at a very early age by the phone, and you can always see them at 17 months old or even earlier swiping. I mean, they figure out how to do it so early because they see their parents with the phone, right? So what do you do about that? What's your plan for the kid?
So it's tricky because I'm terrified of creating a screen-dependent kid.
Great.
Yeah.
And that's just like a big fear that I'm dealing with. So we're trying to treat it really particularly. For example, I saw some advice that said never put a screen in front of your child when they're upset.
Oh.
So you're not trying to use the screen as a mode of calming them down.
I want you to know, Maria, just so you don't think we're in your class, Marjorie with her kids, me with my kids, when they were young, like your kid is, and they were upset, the VHS immediately went on, and they were watching videos, and we locked the damn door. So, Maria, no, that is, I know what you...
Don't get me wrong, though. We watch stuff, like we're professional musicians, my husband and I, so we put on concerts.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, we'll be watching, like, videos of the Berlin Philharmonic playing.
Wow.
And, that's kind of what we're gravitating towards. So that it's,
well, I think that may be the answer to my question. So after you accidentally didn't have your phone and you had a wonderful experience, did you replicate that experience intentionally once you were home?
Not exactly, but it's just the idea that we're trying to really be cautious with our and how we're using screens.
Great. Hey, Maria, we're really glad you called. Thanks so much. Listen to this.
Did you see this text?
Well, why don't you read it?
This is, look online for a device called the TV Be Gone, a remote that moves through all TV brand frequencies to turn off TVs in places like bars and restaurants and can be used without anybody knowing who did it. And there's a picture of it. Apparently it's
like a keychain kind of thing.
Yeah. It's an environmental management device. you don't like the fact the TV's on when you're having dinner at one of those snazzy restaurants you go to, you point and click, and it shuts the thing off.
Can you check, see if that's real?
It
is real? It is real.
Wouldn't they just turn it back on, the people that are running the restaurant?
And then
I don't know.
You know what you do then? You turn it off.
Again?
Exactly. And they, right. A lot of people in the audience are trying to turn off the TV right here.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. We have the TV on. That's right. We do have CNN
Those are
on all
called
the time.
monitors, I realize. They're
Okay.
not, whatever they are.
Christy in Leicester.
Hey, Christy, what's up?
Well, I'm calling because I'm 81 years old, and I don't own a cell phone.
Yeah.
I've never bought one.
What are you waiting until you're 85, or what are you thinking?
No, I know because of my age that
Yeah.
you can live without one of these.
Excellent point.
It's becoming harder because everybody assumes that you do own one.
Yeah.
But I just let my friends know that I don't own a cell phone.
Mhm.
They contact me other ways. I use email.
Yeah.
I answer my phone. I find that in the era of cell phones, people are much less likely than when I was younger to answer phones. And so I think for me, communication is better without cell phones and texting, and
Yeah.
I have just refused to own one.
Good for you. I admire you, Christy.
I think in truth, it's a lot easier to do that when you are older.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost impossible to do that if you're 15 years old or you're 25 years old or you're 35.
Why, you can't talk to somebody?
No,
Like a
because I
human?
think the whole world, including your workplace, operates on the assumption that they can reach you really
Mhm.
quickly. And certainly teenagers
Mhm.
are going to feel totally out of the loop if they don't have some way to...
How old were your kids? I don't think I've ever asked this. How old were your kids when they got cell phones?
Gosh, I don't remember,
Yeah.
Jim. I don't remember. But
What do you think?
I think they were a lot older than you are now
Really?
because, well, my youngest kid is 30 now, so this is a long time ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a whole different era. But I know a lot of people that, friends of my family that are older that don't use cell phones either because they didn't grow up with them.
My kids were 18 months. They're on porn sites at 24
Oh,
months.
good. That's good, Jim.
Let's go to Laura in Braintree. You're next on Boston Public Radio. Thank you for your call. Hi.
Hi, Jim and Marjorie. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. What's up?
So I'm calling because it's funny you've been talking about kids. What I find really troubling and irritating is when you are in a restaurant or really anywhere, grocery shopping, and people just plop a phone or an iPad in front of their kids just to keep them busy, to avoid
I am so with you.
having to, deal with their kid. And I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old myself. So I am totally empathetic with how annoying kids can be. But I'm also a child therapist, and kids are not learning how to be social and behave in social settings. And, it drives me crazy when I see people giving their kids phones and iPads, especially in restaurants.
Hey, Laura, what do you do with your 4- and 7-year-old when you go to a restaurant?
I bring things for them to color with.
Yeah.
We talk.
Yeah.
I tell them, I correct them when they're being inappropriate. And I engage them in conversation, and we talk about the things that we're looking at or whatever. And it's more work.
So the 7-year-old...
Well, that's the problem, Laura. It's very time-consuming to discipline kids.
It is.
It's easier.
But your
just not to.
7-year-old is old enough, I'm assuming, to know that his or her friends at 7 are allowed to use their phone when they're out at a restaurant. So does the kid complain?
I mean, she hasn't gotten to that point too much yet, but all of the friends have iPads. But my friends are I feel like they're sort of on the same page with some of this, but it is hard because, I know people that their kids have gotten iPads since they were 1.5 years old. And it's my kids haven't had that at all, not even on long road trips. And I've intentionally done that because I work with kids who, they have zero tolerance for boredom. And kids need to be bored so that they can be creative. It's how their brain works.
Yeah, imagination, right?
Laura, that was great.
Yeah.
That was really
I think
great.
the
Cole.
story,
Thank
Laura,
you.
recommends no more than an hour a day on an iPad. Isn't that what one of these stories says? That should be the most. Listen to some of these. This is from Julian Amesbury. A phone-free month could teach people some manners. I'm a bartender. Had a guy come in Monday night, squeeze himself between two people, and proceed to have a Zoom meeting on his phone. And then a lot of people mention this. Today, it's Eric from Ashland, talks about kids going to overnight camp where tech is not allowed. I mean, I think that's the experience of a lot of people at overnight camp. But he says the day we picked them up, they talk so positively about how they don't need their phones and how they're so much happier without them. Alas, the next day, they're back to gaming, texting, and doom scrolling.
You know, I just realized
What?
We have a person who runs the bar at Select Oysters sitting right here as a friend of ours. You're not on a mic, but if someone starts talking at the bar on a phone, what do you do there, Gina? Talking, not just looking. You what? Ignore them until they're done. That's a much more civilized approach than I would take.
Yeah.
877-301-8970. If you go to Select Oyster, ask for Gina. She's pretty terrific. Marla in Sterling, you are next on Boston Public Radio. Hi, Marla.
Hi, I'm the one that dropped my phone last week under my gas pedal.
Oh, yeah.
yes.
That was
my
one of the
gosh.
saddest stories ever heard, ever. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So anyhow,
Yeah.
I don't have a landline. I only have a cell phone.
No one has a landline, but go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
know. So
Yeah.
if I want to use the phone, I have to use my phone.
Got it.
But
Yeah.
I've been turning it on mute lately so that I don't hear it ring.
Wow.
And they could leave a message as far as I'm
They could.
concerned.
Yeah, they could,
And then
yeah.
I check them in the evening when I get home.
What's that again?
And
Wait, I missed that part.
they would-
When you get home, what happens?
I check them in the evening and see
Excellent.
if I have any messages or
Very
anything.
good. Very good.
And yeah, and
Okay.
I have the Apple Watch. I try not to look at it,
Yeah.
but
Why do you have it then?
you know,
Why do you have it if you don't look at it?
tell the time.
Tell the time.
Well, that's
Okay.
reasonable, right?
Well, you
That's
sort of have,
absolutely reasonable.
but her phone tells the time.
Yeah.
Is what I'm. Hey, Marla, thank you. It's nice to speak to you again. I hope you found the phone that went under the car. Or
You
whatever
know,
it did
somebody just
last time we talked to
texted
you.
and said the BlackBerry was released in 1999.
I had a
and
BlackBerry.
remember, it very quickly became the CrackBerry.
Yeah.
I remember there's a great story in the Wall Street Journal about how some little kid took the mom's CrackBerry and threw it in the toilet because the kid was so sick of having their mother ignore them to look at the phone. And you know where you see that all the time?
Yeah.
Parks.
Yeah.
Parks.
Do you have a beeper when there were no cell phones? Did you have a beeper?
I did have a beeper. Someone gave it to me. It drove me crazy.
Wait, who gave it to you?
You did.
I
Jim.
did?
Yes,
Is
you
that
did.
right? Is that really true?
That is correct.
That's because you wouldn't call me back. That's
That is
probably right.
correct.
Okay.
I was very much a Luddite before that. Then you insisted on the beeper thing because we started to work together.
You're very welcome. I'm
Okay.
sorry about the working
That's
together
okay.
thing. We got to take a break.
We're going to take a break
We are.
because we're going to speak with GBH's Jared Bowen up next. He's going to tell us about ticket sales plummeting at the Kennedy Center and artists canceling their performances.
Not all.
Not all, but some of them because Donald Trump has taken over running the Kennedy Center. Isn't he installed himself as chairman
He
of
is
the
the
board?
chair. Remember, the guy who's in charge of it has never been to the Kennedy Center, Grinnell. Right.
No
and
problem.
He canceled the gay men's chorus, and then you reminded me that
He's
he was gay.
That's right.
Okay,
You're listening
fine.
to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, the children's musical Finn chronicles the coming-of-age journey of a young shark following his dreams. It was commissioned by the Kennedy Center last year and had a critically acclaimed run. But then it entered treacherous waters. When President Trump took over the Kennedy Center, plans for a tour of the musical were abruptly canceled. The musical's director joins us. Tune in for that and more on The Culture Show today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Boston Ballet, presenting Swan Lake. This timeless love story features thrilling dancing, masterful music, and breathtaking sets. On stage beginning February 27th through March 16th. Official tickets at bostonballet.org. And Elephant Energy, specializing in all-electric heat pumps from Mitsubishi Electric. Elephant Energy helps homeowners looking to reduce their carbon footprint. Learn more at elephantenergy.com.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, live at the library, streaming youtube.com/GBH GBH News. As we said, at 1 o'clock today, it's on our inaugural version of Ask The Auditor. Diana DiZoglio will be with us to answer your questions. And yours will obviously talk about the status of the ballot question to audit the legislature that won a mere 72% of the vote. And a week from today, the Attorney General joins us here for an hour of Ask the Attorney General. Joined at the library desk by Jared Bowen. He's GBH News Executive Arts Editor, host of The Culture Show, which airs right here on 89.7 at 2 o'clock every day. Hello, Jared.
Great to be with you.
So,
looking rather dapper, I should say.
We both admire his very handsome sport jacket. Anyway, Jared is always looking beautiful.
He is looks really good.
There you go, Jim. It's an
Okay, thank
example
you.
to think about.
Thank you.
Anyway,
It's
Should
not
I leave
necessary,
now?
but
of course,
thank you.
I should talk myself.
Exactly
but in any
right.
case, the Kennedy Center we mentioned is people are canceling. Ticket sales are down a lot because Trump has taken over the Kennedy Center. I presume that's why. Some artists are canceling their performances, some artists aren't. What's going on?
So it's a really interesting thing that's happening right now because, and there's no right answer here, but because of this change in leadership, the president appointed himself chair of the board. He has reappointed the board with all people who are affiliated with him, which is usually not the case. It's usually bipartisan, has always been bipartisan.
Kraft's wife, right?
Kraft's wife.
She's on the
Robert
board.
Kraft's
Robert
wife,
Kraft's
we call
wife,
him, yes.
from the Patriots.
Not Josh Kraft,
Not
his
Josh
father.
Kraft.
Yeah.
Right. And, and just to back up a little bit, the Kennedy Center is one of the preeminent performing arts institutions in the country. It's a huge deal for any artist, comedian, performer, orchestra to be able to perform at the Kennedy Center. It's a milestone in your career. So now we have this moment where the leadership has changed, the structure has changed. Reportedly, there's chaos within the organization. And so some people like Issa Rae have decided they don't want to have any part of it. She had a sold-out show that she decided to cancel. I think it was a series of shows that she decided to cancel. Other people have said, I'm going to move forward because this is a huge moment for my career. Also, if I'm going to take the stage and I have things to say, especially if I'm a comedian, I'm going to address them despite the repercussions for perhaps criticizing the administration.
That's W. Kamau Bell, who's a very funny comedian that's on
Right.
CNN, who black guy went into talked to people in the KKK.
Klan, right.
So he feels
He's not cowed.
If he can go talk to people in the KKK, he can go to the Kennedy Center.
Right.
Yeah.
So it'll be very interesting to follow what happens now because only about $48 million or $45 million of their $268 million budget comes from the federal government. A lot of people are speculating that they're not going to have any financial troubles at the Kennedy Center because just like we've seen with the inauguration and with a lot of the very wealthy business people who have been present so far in the administration, people are going to rush to fill that gap to curry favor with the president. So there's so much that remains to be seen here, and who knows how it's going to play out.
Yeah, I have to say, well, you said what most smart people say is there's no right answer. I don't agree with it. I don't agree. I mean, Kamau Bell said I went and I did my first 20 minutes criticizing. Did you read anything about the 20 minutes?
I didn't.
No, neither did I.
I didn't see it,
so
but I couldn't necessarily broadcast.
So you help keep the place in business, an organization. I mean, the line from this Grinnell guy, if everybody, what you're supposed to do if you're a Trump sycophant is you say, make whatever you do great again. Whoops, make healthcare great again, make entertainment great again. And this moron talks about how they're finally going to have Christmas shows honoring Christ's birth. And it turns out the Kennedy Center always has Christmas shows, kind of thing. So I don't really get, this is not an attack on you, by the way. Well, maybe it is. I don't get the notion that you either go or you don't go. Why should you go?
Well, the other argument is, do you want to be cowed? Do you want to walk away because the president has his leadership for an institution that has been founded in this country by a president, President Kennedy, or came about in the aura of the Kennedys that had a support of the arts and wanted to elevate.
It's not that institution
and
anymore.
wanted to elevate the arts in this country. And why would you just let that go by not appearing on its stage?
It's
not gone. You can still step forward on the stage and you can still retain it and you can defend it. I think that's what a lot of people are looking at.
Okay.
And I understand the people who don't want to be part of it either, who feel so targeted by the administration they don't want to be part of it. I understand both points of view, but I think there also is value in trying to defend it and hold it up.
Okay, so another protest, which I have to say I love but I don't get, is describe this protest by musical performers. I think in the UK, for a very good reason, but then explain what the hell they're doing that I don't really understand.
Well, I listened to it this morning. So right now, the UK...
Oh, let's play it first before you describe it so we can see if people know what the hell we're talking about. Here's a clip from the track Government, featured on Is This What We Want? It's an album protesting the UK government's proposed changes to the copyright law, featuring more than 1,000 artists. They're basically stealing their work, including Kate Bush. Here it is. Okay, well, I get the point. Not exactly. So what is the point, and what are they protesting exactly?
And for playing that, you just benefited them because you can hear that on Spotify, which is how I listened to it this morning. So what's happening in the UK right now is they are having this consultation about the future of AI, and it seems that the UK government is trending toward this situation where they want to allow for AI companies, AI software, and algorithms to go and be able to collect music that exists already and repurpose it and do what AI does. We've talked about this in visual arts. We've talked about this for actors. We've talked about this for singers, how you can just lift up voices. This is how you can hear Johnny Cash singing the Barbie song. Well, of course, the artists, and there are about 1,000 of them that have signed this letter to protest this and have joined this album effort, have said, you can't possibly defend this. You can't lift our copyrights and allow our material to just be subsumed by AI so that they can repurpose it into their own enterprise. Critics of these artists are saying, no, you're not making any allowances, and this is how it has to go forward. Otherwise, we're not going to be a leader in AI. This means the UK.
So then pay me for my work, and then you can use whatever you want.
Exactly. So what these artists have done is they've just put out this album, and you just heard what it is. It's empty performance halls, empty recording studios, which they argue could happen if they don't have jobs anymore. And this is where it's headed. If we don't figure this out and we start lifting this intellectual property from artists, this is how it's going to end. Because what's the impetus to create if you are trying to have a livelihood out of this? There isn't one anymore. So this is the moment where artists have to hold fast because this is all changing so fast.
Well, I think about the idea of just lifting everything from newspapers when the internet first began. And what did it do? It put them all out of business. And this is just a repeat of it. It's like, didn't we learn something from that? You know, we've got to learn from this. I think you can't do it.
Well, and in the United States, they're doing it. We had a story yesterday, we just never got to it, the day before, about doing it with books in the United States, with authors just taking their copyrighted works. So the thing I don't understand, and since you're a constitutional scholar, how is that, in all seriousness, if this stuff is copyrighted, how is it legal to use it in a way if you're not compensating
We're in
the
an age of
person with the
lawlessness,
copyright?
Jim. Haven't you noticed that?
Yeah,
well, I don't know how it's going to work in the UK, but of course something like this in this country would go before the Supreme Court, because this is what's going to happen. You're going to have this back and forth. We don't seem to have this divide right now in the United States, but we are also behind. We've talked about this. You guys have talked about this, how our Congress doesn't necessarily understand technology. We've heard some of the conversations happen on Capitol Hill. And so going forward, if Europe is to be the bellwether, or Australia, which seem to lead the world in trying to establish these guardrails, or in this case, take them down, this is the way it's going to make its way to the courts.
So let me ask you another unrelated question. When you're working, don't you feel like you want to take your jacket off as opposed to just standing there wearing... No, I'm serious. I mean,
I was born in this jacket. I feel like comfortable in this jacket.
It's very
I
nice.
admire you for... Okay.
You're wearing a jacket.
No, not really. Ish, exactly.
He's in his Mr. Rogers ensemble.
Fine. Thank you.
Are you wearing the sneakers? Did you change into the sneakers today?
Maybe I'm not. Yeah.
Okay. So Donald Coyne did not give Odyssey over at the ART a great review. Do you agree with him?
So I have mixed feelings about the Odyssey. So this is the work of Kate Hamill.
American Repertory Theater, I should have said.
Yeah, exactly. And it's playing through March 16th. And this is the work of Kate Hamill, who has looked at a lot of pieces that we know, like Dracula and Sense and Sensibility and Pride and Prejudice, and has updated them, adapted them and updated them and given them a really fresh look. They're very funny. They can be very contemporary while very much honoring the original intent. And so she's just done this with her own Odyssey. It's about a 9-year process to bring this piece to the stage. And she first was encountering the Odyssey as a child when her father, outside of Ithaca, New York, would read her the Odyssey. And
let's have her say it. Do you know she was on your show?
She was on my
show. You're aware of that?
I forgot.
Okay, here she is. Here's actor and playwright Kate Hamill on The Culture Show. That would be Jared's show and others, talking about her connection to the Odyssey. Here it is.
I feel like the Odyssey is a story that I was kind of destined to write, because my father, Paul Hamill of Quincy, Massachusetts, must be said, used to tell me stories from the Odyssey as bedtime stories before I was even able to read, so like 3-4 years old. So I grew up with it as sort of a foundational text for me.
And so what she's done here, so the Odyssey, of course, is the story of Odysseus, who after 10 years fighting and war is trying to get home. His wife Penelope is at home, and we never learn as much about her story other than that she's weaving his story. So Kate Hamill, this is what she does in these texts. She's giving his wife Penelope more agency, more understanding. She's trying to raise a kid. She's trying to wonder if her husband is ever going to come home. She's trying to defend the kingdom against the power grabs. Meanwhile, as Odysseus is coming back, we see him really ravaged by war. And there's one scene in particular, this is why theater can work so well sometimes, because you have this horror before you in terms of death and brutality and dismemberment, all rendered on stage. And this is to say nothing of the sirens and the Cyclops and Circe, the witch, or they have other names for her in the play, and what he's facing. So I think this is where it succeeds in telling Penelope's story, but also understanding that a man who spends 10 years at war is going to be quite destroyed by it at the same time.
How does Santa Claus is Coming to Town fit in? That's what Aucoin mentioned.
Yeah, I don't want to go back and forth with Don's review, but there is, as I mentioned, Kate Hamill always brings contemporary elements and vernacular, and so some of that comes to the fore. It doesn't always succeed. This is a very epic piece and big staging, and it doesn't always hold.
How about Man of No Importance at the Calderwood? That would be there through March 22nd, Jared.
This is a really, really successful, beautiful musical piece, and it's very poignant because it's the last piece that Paul Dagneau, who is the longtime and founding artistic director of Speakeasy Stage Company, is directing. He's stepping down, retiring from the company at the end of this season. So A Man of No Importance was chosen specifically by him for its subject matter, and here you have a man named Alfie in Dublin in the 1960s, and he loves Oscar Wilde, and he loves theater and frequently stages productions in the church. And he wants to do a production of Salome, and the church has something to say about that because it's very controversial. But at the same time, Alfie, this quote-unquote man of no importance, because this is how he sees himself as a gay man in the 1960s, can't really move forward in life until he accepts himself. And what Paul Dagneau has done here is pulled in some of the greatest Boston area actors, two of whom appeared in this original production when Paul directed it years and years ago. So it's very special.
Playing the same parts or different parts?
They are, at least one of them is, Billy Malidi is playing the same part, the stage manager. But it's beautiful because this is a community coming together in real life, this team of actors, and it's a community in Dublin coming together to put on a show, and it's lovely, and there's not one flawed moment in it. I'm a member of the Boston Theater Critics Association. We've named this a Critics' Pick. Almost unanimously, I think, coming right out of the opening this weekend. And by the way, it's playing through March 22nd. It's really, really strong and beautiful.
Why is he retiring?
I think he's just ready to retire. He's been doing this for a very, very long time, and I'm sure we won't see the last of him. He'll continue directing.
So this next thing is kind of a tribute to Frank Costantino, an architect that's done great work around Boston for years and years. So
I love these. I love these things.
So fill us in.
Speaking of beautiful, these are these gorgeous architectural renderings. This is at the Boston Athenaeum through May 3rd, and they have had a whole series now of exhibitions that are looking at Boston's architecture. And so Frank Costantino is somebody who has been doing hand-drawn renderings of architectural projects for his entire life. This is something that has now shifted into the computer realm. You can create images on computers and immediately render what the architects are trying to convey as they put their projects before boards and companies and people. But he hand draws, and he draws, he does watercolor, there's painting, and I likened these when I saw them to portraits. They're portraits of buildings because there's so much life and movement. He has a great one of a place just up the street here, the Heinz Convention Center.
Yeah.
You see the birds, and you see a person on horseback, the mounted police, and people moving, and you see the reflection of the light. And often he'll have flags or other things in his works that give you a sense of the wind, the temperature that day, the sun that day. Of course, this is all by design because he wants to position the building, how the sun is going to reflect it, and where it sits in the city. It's just a fascinating process. He's a really nice guy, and it's great to see this honor that he's getting in this exhibition on view right now.
And the Athenaeum itself has been reworked and redone, has it not?
They had a major renovation and restoration. They expanded into their adjacent buildings, so they have a much larger space. In fact, where you'll see his exhibition is part of a new gallery space, sister restaurant to the Newsfeed Cafe.
Folio, which I've been to. It is fabulous. It's really fabulous.
Yeah. So it's brought the Athenaeum to life in a even better way, I think.
So, Jared, the Oscars, we're going to talk to James Bennett II, your colleague and our colleague, tomorrow about the Oscars in some depth. And what did you say? I wasn't listening when you answered Marjorie's question yesterday. When he asked you what should win Best Movie, what did you say?
Well, I'm not sure. And so I think I think it should be The Brutalist, but I haven't seen Anora.
I thought you said something else yesterday. Wait,
it could be.
Yesterday you said a film that you hadn't seen.
Well, no. So these are two questions.
What are
one,
the questions?
What do I think right now? And one, what do I think is going to happen? And this is what makes this year's Oscars so much fun because we don't know. Often there's a big front runner like Avatar or Titanic or Silence of the Lambs, where you go into this and you think, okay, this is going to sweep everything, or La La Land. We don't know that this year. Part of it is because of this whole Emilia Perez controversy, because for a while that looked like the movie that everybody would have to beat, and she would be the best actress contender.
Could you explain for the three people who haven't read about this what the controversy is briefly?
Yeah, so Emilia Perez came out of the gate. It's about a transgender cartel leader in Mexico, and it's also a musical. And then there was criticism because the film was shot in France and not one iota of it was shot in Mexico. People criticized the portrayal of the LGBTQ community, of the Mexican community, and then the lead actress stepped forward or didn't step forward. People excavated a whole history of tweets, Islamophobia, to some degree, homophobia. It was pretty damning for her, so she was pushed out of this whole thing and has kind of disappeared
and sort of sunk
tanked.
the prospects of the film itself. Yeah.
Except for Zoe Saldana, who
won the Screen Actors thing the other day.
Did, okay, so she'll probably win Best Supporting Actress. So that opened it up for Anora, Conclave, and The Brutalist now to step forward. And lately, Anora has won awards like the BAFTAs and the Screen Actors Guild Awards. Conclave won the Best Picture for BAFTA. So this is why everything is muddied and nobody knows what's going to happen.
The problem is if you give it to The Brutalist, you're encouraging them to make 3.5-hour long movies. And I think that's a really bad precedent.
They did have an intermission, though.
Did you do?
Yes, it was a long intermission. Okay. You were there in the theater for a long time, let me tell you.
What did you think? I didn't know you went to see it.
I liked it. I mean, Adrian Brody's great. The acting was great. Adrian, sorry. But again, it was too long. It just was too long. Oh. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of the other ones. I've seen that and Bob Dylan, and that's it.
Did you see Conclave?
I saw Conclave.
Yeah.
That was very good. Very well acted.
Well, Jim got me thinking, because you asked me the other day if this whole situation with the Pope right now was
going
to
affect
it.
That I remember, yeah.
But I went back and looked, and voting for the Academy Awards ended on February 18th, which I think is before we started to learn about the Pope, so I don't think there'll be any sort of correlation.
I would love to see Conclave win because it will upset the church.
Yes, it will, without giving too much away.
That's
you have
right.
to watch till the very last second.
I don't want to give it away.
We're running low on time. You wanted to say something?
But I was going to say, I think so. Demi Moore probably will definitely
She's won everything, right?
Substance.
Did you see that movie?
I haven't seen that
Okay,
either.
good.
But because people are so happy to see her hold her own at these award shows,
and
the
her
speeches
great speech,
are great.
Yeah.
She's given this long career. They say this is her due.
She's not still with that 20-year-old actor, or whatever his name is she?
I don't know.
What's that guy's name? Thank you, John. Ashton Kutcher. They broke up. Thank you. That was like 20 years ago.
That was
Sorry.
a long time ago.
Sorry, I
He's
missed
with, I think, Mila Kunis now.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, we've got some breaking news here. A school-aged child has died from measles in West Texas. The child was not vaccinated, and the outbreak continues there. More than 130 people have been sickened, most of them children under age 18.
That is really,
it's really horrible.
Let's see what the new head of HHS has to say.
What's on your show?
What's on your show? Oh, she said that.
Okay, so we're going to be, we just talked about the Kennedy Center. So today we're speaking with Adrienne Campbell Holt, who had a musical that was very successful, a children's musical that played last fall at the Kennedy Center. It was commissioned by the Kennedy Center, got rave reviews, turned profitable, which doesn't always happen in theater. It was supposed to go out on a 2-year tour. It was canceled. She'll be on the show today to walk us through what happened, why it happened, and what the Kennedy Center's response to her was. And I can point out...
That's a good one.
We tried to get in touch with the Kennedy Center this morning to get some sort of statement. To my knowledge, since I've come on the air, we haven't heard back, and it was really hard to even get through to them, which I think speaks to the situation right now. Pedro Alonso, the public art curator, will be on to talk about a dust-up in Quincy about some statues that are of Catholic nature, which are public art that are supposed to be in front of a public safety building. And then we'll look at Nebulae, the universe unveiled at the New Bedford Art Museum with gorgeous pictures of space.
Great.
Oh, sounds fabulous. Nice to see you, Jared.
Thank you very much, Jared.
We'll be listening 2 o'clock.
We absolutely love the sport coat. We're speaking with Jared Bowen, GBH News Executive Arts Editor and host of The Culture Show, which airs right here on 89.7 at 2 p.m. right after us. No news, just go straight from us to Jared. Coming up after the new news, which we do have, of course, the United States says a deal has been reached with Ukraine to source minerals in Ukraine as repayment for U.S. aid during their war. We'll talk with Juliette Kayyem, national security expert, about that, and about Dan Bongino, the Own the Libs podcast host, who is now number 2 at the FBI. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.
Public Radio with Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. Just ahead, more smart conversation about what's going on in our community. That's right after an NPR news break, here on GBH News 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And The Lyric Stage, presenting Art. A controversial piece of art forces 3 best friends to examine just how well they really know each other. February 21st through March 16th at Lyric Stage Boston. Tickets at lyricstage.com. After the deadly ship collision that closed the port of Baltimore, Nova investigates what went wrong and how many other crucial bridges are at risk. Watch Baltimore Bridge Collapse tonight at 9 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, head on Hour 2 of Boston Public Radio, live from the Boston Public Library. Harvard's Juliette Kayyem is here. Why is Donald Trump doing everything in his power to weaken Ukraine's position in the war against the Russian invasion, now in its 3rd year? And what can we expect from alt-right podcaster Dan Bongino, now the FBI's deputy director? We'll ask Juliette.
I'm Marjorie Egan. As Donald Trump does everything he can to pollute our air and dirty our water, we'll talk with some local power players in the world of clean energy. Heather Takle with PowerOptions, helping lower the cost of renewable energy, and former Somerville mayor, now head of the Alliance.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump's holding his first cabinet meeting this hour at the White House. He first addressed reporters in the room about Ukraine.
President Zelensky is going to be coming on Friday. That's now confirmed, and we're going to be signing an agreement, which will be a very big agreement. And I want to thank Howard and Scott for the job you guys did in putting it together. You really did an amazing job. And that'll be on rare earth and other things.
Trump then asked Elon Musk, whom he appointed to oversee sweeping and widely controversial cost-cutting measures across the federal government, to address the cabinet.
Just the interest on the national debt now exceeds the Defense Department spending. We spend a lot on the Defense Department, but we're spending over $1 trillion on interest. If this continues, the country will become de facto bankrupt.
Musk is not a member of the cabinet. NPR's Stephen Fowler has more.
This cabinet meeting is going to be worth watching because it's one of the first major public sources of tension between the Trump administration and the implementation of Musk's DOGE effort, but there's some other simmering conflicts in the background. Many of the actions that Musk and DOGE have taken are in court after running afoul of very particular and explicit set of rules and laws that govern the government.
NPR's Stephen Fowler. Federal workers fired at the U.S. Agency for International Development will have just 15 minutes tomorrow and Friday to return and clear their desks. NPR's Michelle Kellerman reports Trump administration officials sent around instructions even as they battle in courts over the way they have dismantled the agency.
The Trump team started sending out termination letters on Sunday, though many USAID staffers have been locked out of their office for weeks, unable to even pick up their personal items. Now the administration is giving them 15-minute time slots this week to retrieve their belongings from the Ronald Reagan building in downtown Washington, D.C. They've been told to bring their own boxes and containers because they won't get any help with that. The email also warned them not to bring weapons, knives, chlorine, or other prohibited items. Michelle Kellerman, NPR News, the State Department.
East Coast dock workers have ratified a new contract. NPR's Scott Horsley reports the deal averts a repeat of last year's port strike.
Approval of the dock workers contract comes as a relief to shippers who rely on ports along the East and Gulf Coast. It keeps cargo traffic flowing after a 3-day work stoppage last fall. The contract raises pay for longshoremen by 62% over the next 6 years. It also sets some limits on port automation. Computer chip maker NVIDIA is set to report quarterly earnings after the market closes. The company's enjoyed tremendous growth, fueled by excitement over artificial intelligence. This will be NVIDIA's first report since the emergence of a Chinese AI company, DeepSeek, that relies on less expensive technology. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
It's NPR.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Massachusetts Lottery posted a record-breaking holiday season for the instant ticket sales. According to the Mass Lottery Commission, during its 2024-25 season, the Merry and Bright Scan to Enter promotion saw a 59% increase in instant tickets entered and a 300% increase of unique players compared to figures from the previous season. Tom Aiello with the Lottery Commission says the big bump can be attributed to the integration of the Massachusetts Lottery app. He adds that in the first month of this year, overall lottery sales were up $10.5 million over the same time last year. And we should note that this is a good time to mention the Scratch and Win podcast by GBH's Ian Koss. You can listen wherever you get your podcasts. It's very good. A Boston University professor has filed a lawsuit seeking class action status over the school's practice of paying employees once a month. The report that the suit says that the suit filed in U.S. District Court in Boston alleges BU is violating a state law requiring that employers pay workers at least twice per month. Similar lawsuits have been filed against Amherst College as well as Harvard University. Celtics are in Detroit tonight for a game against the Pistons. Exhibition baseball. Red Sox are 1 hour away from the start of their game with Tampa Bay this afternoon in Fort Myers. And in the forecast, mostly sunny, high near 50 today. Could see some light rain overnight tonight, low 35. We will see rain tomorrow, high in the upper 40s, then sun clouds in mid-40s on Friday. Right now, 49 degrees in Boston. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Indiana University, establishing the IU Launch Accelerator for Biosciences to drive healthcare discoveries and train the next generation of innovators. More at go.iu.edu/IULab.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at YouTube GBH News. At 1 o'clock, we're going to be joined by the Auditor, State Auditor, Diana DiZoglio, for the first edition of Ask the Auditor. She'll take our questions and yours. A week from today, right here at the Boston Public Library, we're going to be joined by the Attorney General, Andrea Cabral. I saw her on TV last night.
Campbell, too.
Campbell, whoops. She was down at the big hearing with Warren about the Consumer Financial
Protection Bureau.
Yes, she was. Okay. Hello again, Jim.
Hey, Marjorie. So we're joined now at the library desk by national security expert Juliette Kayyem. Juliette's former assistant secretary for Homeland Security under Barack Obama, faculty chair of the Homeland Security Program at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government. Her latest book is The Devil Never Sleeps, Learning to Live in an Age of Disasters. Hello there, Juliette.
Hello.
Hey there.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming out.
So, Juliette, right before the news, we mentioned that a child has died, a school-age child has died from the measles in Texas. You know, we have a guy running Health and Human Services, a vaccine skeptic, if you might not say denier, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. So, do you think he's actually going to be able to crack down on measles, mumps, and rubella vaccines, or what?
Well, no, I don't think it works that way. I think it's a very different way that it works, which is that the vaccines will continue. He has said that he wants to do continuing studies. So what does that mean? Why are we doing continuing studies still on the measles, right? In terms of, he wants to make sure they're okay. How it works is that his skepticism is then reflected in how the CDC communicates the necessity of vaccines and what it means to live in a community in which you need about 95% of people to be vaccinated so that you have essentially what we all remember from COVID, herd immunity. This is a community in Texas that got under 80%. That is shocking. That means 2 in every 10 parents were not having their kids vaccinated for measles, which is like the easy one at this stage. And so unfortunately, this is why does government matter narrative number 5,822, which we're going to have to go through for the next 4 years, is it's going to take deaths like this for people to realize what it means to live in a society that doesn't take vaccines seriously.
Yeah,
and that's how it's going to play out with this Kennedy guy. That is just, it is not that he's going to say no to it, because also the pharma industry wants the vaccines and everything. We get that. It is going to be a skepticism that then the population says, well, if the head of HHS is saying they're still studying it, I'm not sure I want to make my kid at risk.
We have a religious exemption in Massachusetts, which I think is disgraceful. Because as Art Kaplan, that used to talk to us all the time about these medical ethical issues, said all the time, there was vaccines came long after the major religions were established.
No, there's also no religion, including Christian Science or any of these, that
they all
says
make it up.
Can I just emphasize your point?
Do you know what I say about these?
What's that?
I say this is how I feel about it, which is, it is whenever I meet someone who's like skeptical about vaccinating their children, it is clear to me that I love their children more than they love mine. In other words, it's not that their kid is going to get harmed. It is that they view their child as more precious, that child does not have a responsibility to my child.
Because they put your kid at risk.
Right.
Let me just say two things.
It's just outrageous.
2 things about Kennedy. By the way, you mentioned the CDC. Who cares what the CDC says? If you stopped 100 people on the street and said, what do you know about Robert Kennedy Jr.? And by the way, either Chuck Todd or John King told us the other day that in polling, the most popular member of Trump's cabinet is Kennedy.
You know why?
Because it's Kennedy.
No, also, like, he's got the loosey-goosey, wacky stay-at-home moms in California and parts of Massachusetts who are on their Instagram lifestyle channels. I mean, The Atlantic did a story on this. He's wildly popular amongst people who think, like, the whole well-beingness crew that drives me nuts.
The wellness thing.
Like
Gwyneth Paltrow set and all that.
Exactly. The 2 things the average person would know about him is, 1, he's a Kennedy, and 2, he's anti-vax. And that does trickle down. You don't need the CDC in between. That's number 1. And number 2, the fraud of this character, I assume people here know, every one of his kids is fully vaccinated.
Yeah.
So it's fine to preach for ordinary people that they don't need to be vaccinated, but don't worry, my kids are. I mean, he is really a menace to society.
And he talks about measles like it was no big deal. We all get a week off from school. We all got it together, all those, however many children there were, 10, 11, I don't know. But they all sat around watching TV and eating soup.
What did the kids in Samoa? What did the kids in Samoa die of? Was that measles?
Measles.
Yeah. That's what he was
80 plus
responsible.
kids when he goes there and preaches his anti-vax.
And a lot of people.
He has so much heroin in his system. Honestly, he's admitted it. He's forgetting that wasn't the measles. That was the chicken pox. That's what we all got. We got the chicken pox because there was no vaccine, and our parents then, if a sibling got it, they would. That is very different than the measles, right? And so he's not even remembering what disease we didn't have a vaccine for when we were growing up.
Okay, so let's move to Ukraine. And we've talked about almost everything. We've talked about Zelensky's offered to quit if they'd be granted admission in NATO. We've talked about one of the most disgraceful moments in American history when we voted at the UN with Iran, Russia, and North Korea, and against the rest of the civilized world. So they're about to cut a deal on rare minerals. Not allegedly, Zelensky is going to show up at the White House to sign this deal on Friday. My inexpert view of this is he got nothing in return except a meeting with Trump. Is that true or no?
So I don't know. So let me just say what I just got off Zelensky. So let's just let me just put where we are as compared to where we were and where we might be. So no one's seen the document. So the original document, which I think I talked about on it, which I read, which was outrageous. I mean, not only was the original salvo by the Trump White House was a deal for the minerals. With the ability of the United States to sub-license to U.S. corporations Ukraine's minerals without them having any oversight over what the nature of those contracts would be. So Trump put the United States in the position of being like a large conglomerate. But the crazy part of that contract was it allowed the United States to only license to United States companies for the drilling of these minerals with the sort of denying Ukraine any ability to control what the nature of those contracts were. So that's crazy. Ukraine says that's crazy. And plus there's no security guarantee in that agreement. I think this is another instance where when we see it, we're going to see there's a little bit of access to the minerals that's given to the United States, right? That as payback, because we're now apparently our foreign policy is transactional only. That's no,
but
payback.
Only with the people who are invaded, not with the invaders.
No, right. That's that. We'll give them anything. We'll give the invaders anything they want. But my understanding, and I'll correct myself next week. My understanding is that the Ukrainians did get a security guarantee. In
really?
Yeah. So that's my understanding at the last look before I came in. If they did, there's no way Zelensky is coming here without a security guarantee from the United States. He can't survive it because the Ukrainians will say, well, you just handed all of our access to markets in the future to a country that is not going to give us any sort of security guarantee to defend it. I don't think that's feasible, in a lot of ways.
Can I make the argument for that side? I find your argument more persuasive than this, but I'll make it anyway. The argument goes from Zelensky, one, I've got to get a face-to-face meeting with Trump, and this gets me there.
And the visuals,
And secondly, if the United States and Trump in particular are going to benefit financially from this rare minerals deal, it's in their own self-interest, even if they hate me, Zelensky, and don't give a damn about the Ukrainian people, to protect us to a degree, because by doing it, they're protecting their investment in the mineral rights.
That may be it. But I do think that there is a guarantee, and as there should be.
I hope you're right.
As there should be, and we should, and at the same time, interesting things are happening in Europe that we don't know how they unfold, but certainly, lots of ways to read the German election. But I think overall, yes, it's more conservative than it had been, but better than the alternative.
Well, the new guy, Merz, is a fierce opponent of Russia.
Yeah.
So
what's your thesis? I'm sure we talked about this in Trump 1.0, but why Trump is such a rollover for Putin? I mean, it seems like really excessively.
Well, I don't know the right answer. I mean, they range from, there's someone, Trump is compromised and the Russians know it. It's hard to imagine it's not like we don't know anything, right? And the other is that Putin appeals to Trump because both are valueless. In other words, these are two leaders that have no principles to guide it. So it's just purely transactional. He relates to that. This is the way Trump is. No one should be shocked. He presents it as there's no ideology he believes in. Except the ideology of the deal, and that's what we're going to see.
Can
I
add one thing? He's also jealous of the fact this is a leader who doesn't have to consult or get the approval of anybody for anything.
If you are someone that's looking at this, an American that's looking at this, it makes Trump look very weak.
So the way I heard someone, or the way I described it after hearing someone describe how the world was, is our once friends now view us as enemies. That's clear. Our once enemies now view us as dupes, and nobody respects us. Let's just be clear here. Nobody. You've got the Mexican president. She's freaking awesome, right? The new president. She knows. She's literally kissing his ring, and doing this. I'm crossing my fingers for those not watching. Behind her back. He's getting played. He's not seeing it. So Trump does tariffs. He threatens tariffs against Mexico. She threatens tariffs back. He says, I'm going to give it a month. It's been a month. Who won? Yeah,
but can I tell you something? I agree with everything you said, but not with one exception, but I'll add one thing to it. If this war is soon over, which it will be, it appears, nobody's going to go into the details. The American people are going to say, we're thankful that the war is over. Biden couldn't end it. The Democrats couldn't end it. Donald Trump, forget the details. He ended this war, and once again, he outsmarts everybody with this.
Yeah, well, because Netanyahu and Putin had in both instances they had an incentive to wait for Trump. For one, is that right? They want to give him that win, and they're very similar stories in that way. We'll see. I don't know if, Trump is going to present it as we're saying Trump's going to present it as we got a great mineral deal. It's so, I don't know, it's like we're like looting them. It sounds so horrible, but I want to see the writing because the original contract they did not accept. So it's not like Ukraine has anything, it's going to see to anything.
I just have to go back to the measles for a second because this drives me crazy. This is Claire from the Cape. Kids who are not vaccinated don't threaten kids who are vaccinated. Vaccinated kids protect their vaccine. Claire, what you don't understand is many children cannot get the vaccine because they're immune compromised. They are going through cancer treatments. They're going through these other things. And if they get the measles, they could be very sick and they might even die. So your idea that it doesn't matter, I can't resist correcting that, is wrong.
Well, even if you are vaccinated, if you don't reach the threshold, it's a danger to everybody vaccinated and not. So they don't know what they're talking about. But obviously, their leader is Robert Kennedy Jr.
But also, just to that point, to Claire, you said, what's your incentive to not vaccinate a kid from a deadly disease? I don't even get that. Even if it doesn't harm anyone else, you see the numbers. You see that that unvaccinated child is more likely.
I can answer that question.
I know autism.
No vaccine is safe or effective. Those words said verbatim by the new Secretary of Health and Human Services. That's why Claire doesn't get it, or the Claires of the world.
And also, measles is you get really sick from measles.
Claire, if you live on the Cape, if you're worried about risk, get away from the ocean. If you want real risk, be a little bit more worried about the rising sea levels.
Well, it's
sorry to take it out on you, but you did email the show.
That thing really drives me crazy.
Well, you may be risked on that. Can we talk about something that makes me feel a lot safer? The following guy is now the deputy director of the FBI. Here's Dan Bongino on NRA TV, which
he had a show
none
on
of us miss.
Yeah.
Back in 2018, here he is.
Listen, owning the libs is a lifestyle. You must own the libs repeatedly. You can't just own the libs once. It has to happen every day.
Amen. Now, he is the new, this is unbelievable. So we have Kash Patel is the head of the FBI, and we have Dan Own the Libs Bongino is the deputy who is the one who runs the Everyday Deal.
COO.
So how's that going?
I am so glad that we got rid of DEI because of the unqualified people that were given positions in leadership across the United States.
That's
and, couldn't, like the Joint Chief CQ Brown. I'm so glad we got rid of it because now we can have these exceptionally qualified people. The idea that I'm going to hear from Republicans or conservatives or even progressives or Democrats who buy into it, that somehow the counter to DEI is quality. It's like, here's like exhibit number one. This is a range of people who, forget the ideology, have no business running a major institution that has a serious national security, any institution, serious safety and security mandate, except for they don't believe in the mandate. Let's just be honest here. If you don't believe in law and order, which Trump doesn't, we sort of, that seems clear to us. He's into brute force and threats and violence and all this stuff. The law and order doesn't interest him. You put these guys at the head of the agencies. I am more worried about the FBI than I am about the Pentagon. For one, the Pentagon is, you're already seeing it. I don't want to give away secrets, but the Pentagon can slow roll anyone. So even though they got rid of the Joint Chiefs, there's CQ Brown, the Jersey CQ Brown Jr., and they have this guy who wears a MAGA hat, which apparently is what's made him qualified. Yeah, who's literally underqualified, like technically underqualified. They're going to have to get a waiver to have him run the Joint Chiefs. It's such a big agency. So even people never follow up. Trump makes a big announcement. We're going to open up Guantanamo to hold the immigrants, whatever. Yesterday, the Secretary of Defense goes there. There's no immigrants there. Why? Because there's no facilities or whatever. So they're not going to open up Gitmo for large holding facilities. The one, they don't have the numbers. Two, they don't need it. It's awfully expensive. Well, that's coming from the Pentagon. The Pentagon did not want to own unlawful immigrants. Most of them nonviolent, as we're starting to see the numbers. And so I do believe that, I don't know if they can do it for 8 years, but I do believe a lot of this stuff will be slow rolled. The FBI I'm a little bit more worried about because the FBI is much more integrated into civilian society. You're seeing these U.S. attorneys begin to investigate legislators and Democrats and whatever else. There is nothing to do but fight them. There is nothing. You can worry about it. You can be annoyed about it. You can whatever. There's nothing to do than bring it on. At this stage, if they're going to use investigations, threats, you're not going to stop it by caving. I think that is what, if there's any lesson of the GOP and Mitch McConnell, it is that didn't work.
One of the things I think we asked somebody this yesterday, but we'll ask you since you know a lot of these people, is we mentioned that one of the things Bongino said after January 6th on one of his forums, maybe Fox News, was that every single person who worked at the FBI who had anything to do with the investigation of the, I'm sure he called them the patriots or the hostages or whatever he called them, the January 6th insurrectionists, every one of them should be fired. And, I don't think enough people are relating to what the life is of a person who puts himself in danger to be an FBI agent. We don't put ourselves in danger. If they all of a sudden hired a number 2 at GBH who had publicly said, by the way, all the shows suck, a word I never use. The people who work there should all be fired. They're just not good. Oh, by the way, that's your new boss. Do you really want to go to work anymore? And our work, I don't mean this, is not that important in the grand scheme of things. Their work is really important. And they have a guy who's the number 2 guy, not to mention Patel himself, who has trashed their fellow agents, including, it's just.
And they're going out, I don't know if people caught this, but yesterday they filed a lawsuit or some executive order against Covington and Burling, which is one of the law firms that's representing Jack Smith. And look, part of this is for the show of litigation. I just heard this morning on NPR that DOJ has 100+ lawsuits against it. That's not a successful public policy program. Yes, maybe on the edges people sue. If you've been around 3 weeks and you have 100 lawsuits that are legitimate enough to be able to make their way into court, something is terribly wrong. They want the show, and unfortunately, we kind of have to give it to them. You're going to have Congress people, getting lawyers, challenging this stuff in court. Most of it won't hold. And most of it he walks away from, as you see. I don't know when he's going to, I don't know if he's going to throw Elon Musk under the bus, but certainly what happened this weekend suggests he's a little bit tired of it.
So, Marjorie, before we ask, apparently Juliette wants to make a movie recommendation for the Oscars.
Oh.
Can you just read this Ukraine update that you brought to my attention?
Yeah, this is
From
just
NPR.
new reporting from NPR. This was at his cabinet meeting, Trump's. Asked what kind of security guarantees Trump was willing to give Ukraine. He said it would be up to Europe. I'm not going to make security guarantees beyond very much. We're going to have Europe do that. And he described the deal on the minerals as a way to get money back that we spent. He said President Zelensky is coming to sign the deal. It's a great deal for Ukraine because they get us over there. We're going to be working over there. We'll be on the land. And that way it's a sort of automatic security because nobody's going to be messing around with our people when we're there.
We gave a security guarantee.
You think so? And he just doesn't want to
Beyond
admit it?
very much, and will be there to protect their interest. He gave a security guarantee.
Well, I hope you're right.
I mean, he did.
Okay.
I mean, Zelensky's... Let's not forget, Russia is absolutely embarrassed by what happened in the war. This is not like a success story for Russia. I mean, remember when they invaded, we were like, Kyiv is going to fall in
2
6
days.
weeks. Yeah. We're now in year 4. So
They say as many as 800,000 Russians are dead.
I mean, the idea that Russia can call the cards. Anyway, in a week, 2 weeks, because I missed next week, I will come back and we will see whether that language, which now, because I'm the Trump whisperer too, beyond very much and will be there are his ways of saying, I could only get this with a security guarantee.
I wish there's some guarantee of those children they stole coming back to their parents. That would be nice
Russia
too.
stole,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, Russia
Okay,
did.
you have 30 seconds. What's your movie recommendation?
Oh, Conclave.
Really? Why?
Absolutely. First of all, no movie should be over 2 hours. Right now, everyone
Yes.
applaud.
Yes,
It's
thank you.
ridiculous. Who
Thank
has
you.
the time? And it's just so self-absorbed. Like we were talking about one movie, which I won't throw under the bus.
What was that?
Which one was too long?
The Brutalist.
A Brutalist, yeah.
God,
3.5
I
hours.
mean, I could have had another child in that time period. Like it's like you're like sitting there.
Why don't you
Anyway,
while you're at it?
but yes, Conclave. That's my win. The movies should be like that. They should be large and intricate, but they don't have to be sci-fi and they don't have to have flying things. And it's like enough in truth and interesting. And I'm a Conclave fan.
By the way, a corollary to what she's saying is no radio show should be longer than 3 hours. I assume you agree with that too.
It's fascinating to see how they actually.
But it's 30 minutes. That's the way I think about it.
You saw how they picked the Pope, which is sort of interesting.
Whoa. I haven't seen it yet.
But the
I'm not giving
conclave.
anything away.
It's not like you don't know what a conclave is.
I know what a conclave is.
That's not exactly
basically,
spoiler,
but
Jim.
and the whole.
But I thought there's an ending.
There is an ending, but I'm not saying the ending. It's talking about the
You know what? The
intrigue of
ending
picking
is
the
sort
Pope.
of. I think one goes to the movies, gets popcorn, licorice, Diet Coke, everything. One does it to not think too hard.
That's right.
And so yes, the ending of the movie is interesting and whatever. I'm not going to say.
Jamie just said conclave is in the title, Jim, so it sort of lets you know what they're
Papal
talking about.
conclave. That's what it is.
Okay, thank
but
you,
it's
Jamie.
okay.
So it's Sunday night.
So yeah,
My
Sunday night.
tickets must have been lost.
Okay, fine. Goodbye,
Oh, well.
Juliette Kayyem. It's
Bye,
great to
you
see
guys.
you as
Thank
always.
you all for coming.
Very
You're all
much.
great.
Juliette Kayyem.
Okay, see you in 2
Juliette
weeks.
Kayyem is former Assistant Secretary for Homeland Security under President Barack Obama, the faculty chair of the Homeland Security Program at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government. Thank you, Juliette. Coming up after a quick break, we're going to find out everything Donald Trump is doing to pollute our air, dirty our water, and stick us with higher energy bills. With our energy team here, Joe Curtatone of the Alliance for Climate Transition and Heather Takle of PowerOptions. They're going to join us on Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library, where we are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Quick, what's 3 plus 9? Oh, that's too easy for you? Okay, what about 3 minus the root of 2,950? Well, even if you can solve that problem, you probably can't do it as fast as 14-year-old world record holder Arun Shukla. For him, numbers are a game.
I love playing with numbers.
I'm Ari Shapiro. We meet the human calculator on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Bridgewater State University, helping create jobs for Massachusetts. BSU's skilled graduates are recruited by today's industry leaders, elevating business in Boston and beyond. bridgew.edu/elevate. And the Hanover Theatre. International sensations the Irish tenors, known for their classic Irish music, are bringing their timeless ballads and stirring melodies to Worcester on March 8th. Tickets at thehanovertheatre.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBHnews. 1 o'clock today, Diana DiZoglio joins us for Ask the Auditor. You can call in, or if you're here, you can ask her a question directly about her ballot question that got 72% of the vote to audit the legislature, or anything else that moves you. Next Wednesday at 1, the Attorney General will be with us for an hour. We don't have a date yet for the governor and the mayor in March, but we will soon. Energy rates in Massachusetts this winter are high, and a modest rate cut, as we discussed yesterday, isn't doing much for consumers. At the same time, co-presidents Trump and Musk are taking the knife to clean energy initiatives around the country, threatening our energy transition. For more on what this all means for us here in New England, we're joined by Heather Takle. Heather is president and CEO of PowerOptions, and Joe Curtatone, former mayor of Somerville, now the president of the Alliance for Climate Transition. Heather, Joe, it's great to see you both. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you very much for being back again. So some of us, including myself and a lot of kids my children's age, are in a panic now about what's going to happen with Donald Trump. So let's start with you, Joe. How damaging has the first few weeks of his presidency been in terms of everything to do with clean air, clean water?
Well, it's creating a lot of uncertainty. As we've spoken on this show many times, and has been documented, President Trump, as candidate Trump, was put in his target the clean energy transition, the IRA. Let me just say this. The undercurrent of momentum, the economic benefits affiliated with the clean energy transition cannot be stopped. That's true, because the impact of new jobs, manufacturing coming to this country, affiliated benefits to shipbuilding, for steel fabrication, and so forth. That being said, he is mucking up the works in certain sectors like offshore wind. If you're fully permitted and you're under construction, that's great. If the very initial conception stage, you're recalibrating your approach like they're doing on the Gulf Coast to say, we'll transcend this administration to the next. But in the middle, we needed further review and permitting. Those projects has to be installed and so forth. But also, his approach to whether it's rolling back California, attempt to roll back California emissions or impose tariffs on enemies like Canada is creating upward pressure in the energy markets as a whole, and it is impacting consumers in many goods across the board. The energy transition is an economic renaissance for this country, and it has to happen. So his orders or his attempts to undo many things is having an impact economically and consumers in general. Although in the long term he cannot undo, although he'll slow down, and that'll have negative impacts on our climate goals. There's no stopping directionally where we're going as a nation.
Do you buy that, Heather Takle, that there's no stopping? This guy, I think he can stop it on a dime. Are you with Joe Curtatone on this?
Absolutely. It's a little bit different this time around than first time around, for sure, going swifter with 2025. But if you look at last time around, and I would say even if you look at Democratic eras, it's always been a state and local game. And we had some tailwinds behind us for making it more of a federal game of investment that we needed. But a lot of those investments, still question mark of whether they'll go away. We'll see what the courts say and how far he can get. So I remain optimistic. But ultimately, the states have led, and in the times of duress, they've led even more. And it's a challenging environment. We're more inflationary environment, and the pocketbooks of the consumers are hurting. So just being able to dig into the state pocketbooks is
well. Let's
more
talk about one industry. I mean, Joe, in passing, mentioned wind. Here's Bill Keating, and obviously he has a particular interest. He represents the Cape and Islands, that sort of thing, in Congress. Here's what he said yesterday to us about the state's offshore wind projects under Donald Trump. Here's Bill Keating.
That's the vanguard for the entire East Coast, and the capital will fall apart because of what Donald Trump has done. And in Massachusetts, when Charlie Baker was putting together our energy policy, the wind power isn't a luxury. We closed down Pilgrim. That's a huge gap, and that was going to be filled in part. And I don't want to shock people, but we've had meetings in the past with utilities where there'll be rolling blackouts. So I'm very concerned about that.
You know, so we read in the Globe, I think it's South Coast Wind, had most of its major permits, some minor permits. That's going to be a problem. Yes, Vineyard Wind, you were here with the head of Vineyard Wind a few months ago, has been permitted. Doesn't mean that he won't do everything in his power to stop things. So are you as sanguine, are you as positive about the local ability to keep offshore wind power going as you were in general a minute ago, Heather Takle?
No, that's true. Offshore wind is our greatest hope to, especially important, affordable energy. So I'm hoping that it comes back around and saying the economic development is hit because of it. And ultimately, the people will speak up. And in the medium term, I won't say maybe 2-3 years, but in the medium term, it will come back, because that is the greatest hope for local jobs, local manufacturing. All the points that Joe made is exactly what Trump and the administration says they want to do, and the people will speak eventually. But yeah, that's the biggest hit.
But aren't people going to lose their jobs right now if they can't get these? They say that some of these wind farms need federal permits. Trump is saying he's not going to give any federal permits. I mean, it's really so cruel, really. He really just wants to pollute everything.
Yeah, who would have thought?
And we're also running out of time here. I mean, we have Bill McKibben on all the time, and he talks about 2030. Is a real turning point. So it's 2025.
Yeah, so if let's be clear, that doesn't mean, when my comments, there's going to be pain, because, our climate action goals, they're cumulative, right? The impacts of the climate crisis are cumulative. You cannot, it's like math, you can't start down the road. So the worst case scenario of tomorrow depends on what we do and don't do today. How extreme it gets depends on our actions now. We cannot achieve our climate action goals without offshore wind. We cannot achieve our goals, even the Trump administration doing manufacturing here to unlock the AI potential and data centers.
It takes a lot of water,
you need offshore wind. Offshore wind in the last 24 years has surpassed coal-powered generation and represents 11% of the power generation.
That's incredible. People don't know that. 11% is huge.
My hope is, again, that doesn't mean there won't be pain, because if you're in the middle and you needed further review or relief from permitting, you're marked up there. If you're at the back end and you're permitting, you're good. If you're at the front end, like on the Gulf Coast, we're in Louisiana, where Democrats and Republicans came together in the state of Louisiana to have an aggressive project along with RWE for offshore wind, because they saw also the affiliated benefits to shipbuilding and metal and steel fabrication and jobs. That's the type of story that's going to play out. But delay is harm to our planet and to our economy.
Well, also when there's uncertainty, I'm assuming, I know nothing about business, but I'm assuming investors aren't likely to invest in a new project when there's such an uncertainty. Yeah. So can we do a minute of something positive before we get back? Because we are the king and queen of negative radio. Tell us what PowerOptions does there, Heather.
Thanks, Jim. In a quick minute, I can try to. PowerOptions
Take 2 minutes if you like.
It's a nonprofit for nonprofits, including for GBH, in the world of energy solutions. So we reduce the cost, is where we started, through nonprofit buying consortium for energy, but we also reduce carbon and complexity. I mean, you all understand how difficult it is to read your energy bill, and that's what we do for our members. We're a nonprofit ourselves, and we're a member-based consortium, including serving GBH. I'm quite proud to say.
By the way, we didn't invite Heather because they supplied, we didn't even know you supplied GBH till this morning, I should say. Are you affected at all by this, the new bent coming from Washington, your work?
There's a pessimistic outlook of growth opportunities of what we could have done for members, given the federal level of incentives, but historically we've been regional, and as I said before, it's been a regional business, and so we haven't had dependence as a regional organization on that federal level of funding.
Okay, enough positivity. Can we get back?
I'm not the negative guy.
Wait, Jim, I was supposed to offer to you a
swag. Oh, we love swag.
Oh, we love PowerOptions members. You have to get.
For the record, I don't even have one of those, Jim.
Well, this is actually quite nice. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. PowerOptions. Trump, I think on day one, Joe Curtatone, declared a national energy emergency. What does that mean? I don't even know. I'm not being critical. I just don't even know what it means.
It's important to invite listeners and viewers to read the executive order, because part of that is a national emergency that would create abundance and diversified sources of energy, but you don't include offshore wind in it. Yeah. It's really a political play. So that'll be challenging whether or not on the merits, the substantive merits of the declaration, there is an emergency as they've declared. And it's a political sway. We know that, right? So more to come. It's going to be dealt with in the courts and in Congress and whatever iteration of Congress we have.
Can I add in the irony of what it's actually going to do in declaring and drill baby drill, which is increase our energy cost. And when you're an energy wonk and nerds like the folks at PowerOptions and realize what are the dynamics of the energy markets, especially in New England, and when they increase the exports to the LNG market, the prices go up in New England. And when they drill baby drill and increase that has a reverse effect on our local cost of energy.
You know, Margie mentioned Bill McKibben is with us monthly, and every time he's on, he mentions how comparatively cheap clean energy has become, and then we get texts say, no, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Heather, describe to us a comparative cost these days, not long-term, the fact that our kids will be able to breathe and live. What are the comparative costs of clean energy versus fossil fuels in 2025?
I thought you might ask me this because I went to chat recently and talked about that and what some of the costs are. And it's amazing. I think chat, take it with a grain of salt, says that we've got a 13-year payback. If we took our entire grid across the country and developed into a full renewable plus, you do need baseload, nuclear storage, deep geothermal, we would have a payback of 13 years versus the cost of fossil fuel. So the numbers that we typically use and look at in the industry is called levelized cost of energy. And over the last 10 years, the levelized cost of energy, solar versus fossil fuel, if you look at that total cost of operation over the life of the asset, is now lower for solar.
Really?
Yeah, again, it's not tied to volatile or markets like the fossil fuel industry or problematic regimes like Russia, you know?
Yeah. You know, you were in the Marines, so you know something about, you know, security and all that. One of the things that's happening, I think, well, not I think, I mean, I've read, I mean, that because of climate change, places are terrible droughts, you know, food issues, you can't earn a living. People, obviously this election taught us people are very upset about immigration. But if we don't do something about the climate, it's just going to be, people are going to be pouring in here in desperation because they can't survive where they live.
My friends of colonels and generals now in the military that still stayed in are seriously afraid. And I think you see that in their detailed plans. It is absolutely, energy is a national security issue, but not in the way that was declarated in the in the executive order. It's in a different way, and what we're going to have to see globally for combat in all of these different areas of immigration and conflict, et cetera, because of our dependence on fossil fuels, our reduction of water sources. It's terrifying.
Yeah, and climate migration continues to accelerate at a high level.
And the other thing is, we talked about this, I'm sure, with you before, is one of the things you read about California with the horrible wildfires out there, too, and you've read about it in Florida with the hurricanes. People can't get insurance. And you wonder whether that's going to play. I mean, I don't understand, I guess. I know Trump got a lot of money from fossil fuels, and he tries to pretend there's no climate issue. But it's almost such a ridiculous position when we're in this crisis of people worrying about hurricanes, people that never happened as big before, and wildfires and all this kind of stuff. It just seems so crazy.
It's the reality of disconnect of short-term versus long-term sight. I mean, look at
logic has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Right? If it did, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah.
Decency has nothing to do with it either. So.
What?
Decency and logic don't come into play in that.
Well, do you have, is part of the problem, you guys? I mean, you know, I don't mean, well, maybe. I don't know. I mean, the two of you, but as I mentioned before, when the McKibben thing about cost, and again, everybody says, not everybody, a lot of people text say, that's not true. Have you done a decent job of messaging and public education around these things? Because, you know, the abstract notion, as much as it matters to the four of us, and I hope a lot of people here, about having a world in which people can drink the water and breathe the air is really important. But I've always believed that people act on, you used the term before, short-term kinds of things, immediate kinds of things, rather than theoretical, even if very likely to happen, long-term kinds of things. Has the messaging been good enough, Joe Curtatone?
No, that's why, you know, we're focused on our campaign against misinformation at ACT. If you go to www.joinact.org, you can see our Powering Tomorrow campaign. We saw that play out in the election.
Explain what that thing is. All these myths.
And
you told us last
again.
time.
You said it so
say
fast
what the thing is.
www.joinact.org. If you go through that and you look at our Powering Tomorrow campaign, we established the first ever misinformation and state-by-state tracker. We've seen that nefarious forces in the sort of messaging that Trump has put out and parroted has been attacking not the climate crisis, but the efficacy of climate technology, admits that, you know, offshore wind is causing this harm.
The whales. So forth. And we get that all the time.
But so that plays out in this election, you know, and what people related to us, full disclosure. You know, we're happy that they got their plastic straws and the life of their planet down the road and the ability for their kids and grandkids to survive long term and prosper. So it's important that we democratize and put actual facts that has been corroborated into hands of everyday people. So we are taking on misinformation directly. That's going to be crucial. So no, we have not done a good enough job because we wouldn't be talking about this. We're losing on that front right
Heather,
now.
you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I mean, so that's the macro level, and then you talk about the individual entity, the individual looking out for themselves and their pocketbook, and it's very difficult. Complexity is at the root of energy, as we talked about before. I did want to give a shout out to GBH as well of getting ahead of this, but it takes a long time to educate the individual energy users, whether you be a homeowner or a business owner, and how to integrate these great plans and how can it be more cost effective. But GBH is doing that, by the way. I just do want to give a shout out.
By hiring you? Is that what you're saying?
on their own, I think we got brought in the renewable energy and what we call decarbonization. I think we use a lot of wonky terms as part of the problem of communication, absolutely. And how do we bring that down to the basic level when we talk to the individuals as well?
And we need a very humanized message how the clean energy transition is going to make your life better, economically, health, as well as our planet. People, place, and planet. We need a humanized level message that focuses on that we can talk to everyday folks about.
Is your world split? We had Oliver Stone in here about a year ago, who made the filmmaker, who had done a film about the nuclear option, which he strongly supports. You're smiling at me, Heather. I assume I know the answer already. Is the clean energy community split like the public seems to be on nuclear stuff? Heather, were you first? I
think it's starting to change, maybe because the administration is changing that, and that's probably our greatest hope here in the short term of continued, and we do need to build it. We do need some amount of baseload. I mean, Germany and others have proven that you don't need as much as people claim that we need. And there's a lot of new innovation and technology that's helping the cause of nuclear, whether it be new types of nuclear, and I always get them confused, fission versus fusion. I'll say it's fusion is the new because Commonwealth.
We don't know the difference. So
we have no idea.
Or small nuclear.
So you're suggesting the clean energy community, I know it's not monolithic, is moving in that direction from an anti-nuke stance ages ago to a pro-nuke stance. Do you buy that? There, Joe Curtatone?
Yeah, I do. There is movement, and because time is not on our side, it's our enemy as well as the crisis, and we need to examine every option from nuclear on a bigger level to small nuclear reactors on a site-by-site basis. We just cannot flip a switch, notwithstanding that, on the clean energy transition. And again, it is the impacts are negative and cumulative, so we have to look at every option.
Heather, who's doing it right? There are countries that are way ahead of us, I know. Like who?
Yeah, certainly. I think there's a lot of flights that go into Denmark to see what they're doing with offshore wind. You've heard of some of those. The UK, I think, is coming quite about. There's a whole conversation that we haven't even touched on. It's too technical to get to, but the distribution level and using distributed energy resources, bringing local energy, distributed, decentralized energy into the communities. We have a great opportunity here with the progress we've made in community choice aggregations to bring those local resources and do the economic development. So UK's done that. Denmark,
Can you
European
explain that in
countries,
English?
Right?
I'm serious. Can you translate it?
I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you have an EV charge, if you have an EV car,
he does.
He's
got a Tesla.
Let's not talk
don't tell
about
him that.
Tesla.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I have an EV.
you can be a prosumer. You can start getting paid and reduce those utility costs if we got the structure and the markets right, which we're working on, grid modernization. You may have heard that term. We're getting there in Massachusetts, that we can start using the individual resources within the households, within the businesses, and take away the investment that we have to do of the larger centralized transmission grid, et cetera. So it could be even more cost effective, but certainly more reliable and resilient and drive local.
Speaking of drive, do you worry about the future of the EV industry? Well, we know that it continues to grow, but at a much slower pace. And I assume you'd agree that part of the reason is range anxiety that people have. And we've only mentioned 4,000 times that of the 500,000 chargers that were authorized and money appropriated for during Joe Biden, what is it, 8 have been built? And by the way, almost all these stories say the states are the problem, not Joe Biden. But are we, Heather, staying with you for a minute, then Joe Curtatone, are we, by not building that infrastructure, aren't we also putting the EV industry's growth at risk?
In the short term, I am concerned, and isn't it ironic that the EV charging in the electric vehicle industry is the one probably hardest hurt? I wonder why.
Yeah.
Because certain manufacturers have gotten a maybe
that's
leg up.
I mean, that is obvious. Is it not that he's got the infrastructure, so screw everybody else?
Yeah, basically.
Okay, well, that's a nice thing there. So I have a local question for you. I have to ask you first. This is you, Mayor Curtatone. Are National Grid or Eversource on your board?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's too bad, because I have questions.
They don't drive our policy.
Okay,
No,
fine.
they're on our board.
So
We need them at the table.
I did a little commentary yesterday. The headlines in the papers yesterday were very positive for overwrought, overtaxed, or whatever, ratepayers, where there was going to be a 10% cut in gas prices for March and April. And until you read to the second paragraph, and you learn that it's a 10% cut in March and April until they add it to your bills during the lower energy months, summer, whatever. And then one of them, and lucky for you, I forget which one, but not the other, said not only are you going to pay back every penny that we've given you, but we're going to add a 4.73 interest charge to that. So not only do you not save 10%, you end up paying more than you were paying before. Did you say they're on your board? I can't remember.
We have representatives from each on our board.
Okay,
you can talk bad about them.
Well, I'm going to ask you to talk bad about them. How do you feel about that, Joe?
Well, I like the people on my board.
I'm sure they're fine people.
And I have no problem knocking utilities, because when I was mayor, if you had anything go bad in the city, just kick the crap out of utility. Kept everybody busy for a week. So.
How do you feel about this bait and switch?
Well, no, it's problematic, and that's why it's important to focus on, most people don't understand. The Department of Public Utilities, the DPU commissions, is the arena. I mean, they serve technically as the watchdog for consumers, for setting rates, for rate adjustments, and so forth. And in Massachusetts, done a really good job to increase public participation, where advocates and advocacy organizations, individuals, the public need to voice their concerns, because they have incredible sway to. I mean, this is a short-term, minimal blunt to the pain of the rate increases, which is really the consequence of a bad winter in the short term. Bad winters that we are more normal, more like growing up, and dependency on fossil fuels. Long term, we need to get to the transition, but I'll be the first to kick the backside of any utility, but I'm not going to put it all on them, because if we want to protect consumers, we need to move the transition long term at a more rapid delivery pace. Massachusetts could be and is serving as the national and perhaps the global model. That the DPU commissions are really the watchdog for consumer protection in this case.
So maybe they should do something here.
They have the ability to, maybe they can smooth that out and make that more permanent.
Maybe they should do something here.
And that's the arena to voice, and that's where we'll voice our concerns.
Okay, fine. Nice to see you, Joe Curtatone. Heather, it's great to have you.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming in. And thanks for my wonderful PowerOptions mug.
Thank you.
We've been speaking with Heather Takle, President and CEO of PowerOptions, and Joe Curtatone, President of the Alliance for Climate Transition, used to be the mayor over there in Somerville. Coming up next, just enough time in the hour for two more things. Stay tuned. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
There's nothing cooler than an evening of jazz. I'm Al Davis. GBH Music and Jazz Boston are teaming up for a series of unforgettable concerts. On Thursday, February 27th, Triad, exploring the work of Hermeto Pasquale. Learn more and reserve your tickets at gbh.org/events.
Support for our programs comes from you
and the University of Massachusetts Amherst Mount Ida campus in Newton, connecting students and employers in Greater Boston and offering on-campus graduate and pre-college programs. Learn more at umass.edu/Mount Ida campus. And Boston Symphony Orchestra, presenting Tchaikovsky's Violin Concerto, March 13th through 16th at Symphony Hall, where music lives. Conducted by Teddy Abrams. More information at bso.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. I'm Mark Regan, Jim Browdy. We are streaming at the Boston Public Library, youtube.com/GBH News. In about 10 minutes, the auditor will join us, Diana DiZoglio, to take your questions and ours. It's time for two more things. Marjorie, you get to go first.
Well, you may know that the president plans on renewing his tax cuts from the first term around, which are about to expire. And they're mostly for rich people. It comes some of the middle class, but not very much. So what may be at risk here is Medicaid, which is not only poor people. Think of Medicaid as for poor people. Well, it's also for yourself, your mother, or your grandmother who may need assisted living care, because Medicaid pays for nursing homes. So anyway, here's Elizabeth Warren talking about, she was on MSNBC last night, talking about what happened on the Senate floor with her and her colleagues about proposed tax cuts for the very, very rich in the GOP's budget framework. We edited this a bit for time. Here it is.
I had an amendment, and I stood up and said, look, how about we just have one vote that says whatever else happens, let's put in the instruction that says no one who makes more than $10 million a year is going to get a tax cut. We did this by voice vote, and the Democrats all said, yeah, and the Republicans, no. So then Mark Kelly stood up and said, okay, I'll tell you what, how about $100 million? The Republicans, oh, no. Angus King stood up and said, how about $500 million? All of the Republicans gave their big hearty no. Chuck Schumer said, how about $1 billion? Every single Republican saying no. So I think they've told us pretty clearly where they are.
So you might get $500 back if you're a middle-class person, but they're going to go ahead and give massive tax cuts to millionaires and billionaires, which is a little distressing.
And the only way they can pay with it, the biggest target is Medicaid.
Poor people and old people in nursing homes.
Okay, you talked about one president.
And children,
I'm going to talk about the other president,
okay.
Elon Musk, who, for a guy who has a lot of money, can't count. There was a posting about Doge saving $8 billion with the cancellation of just one contract. Well, the 8 was right, but it turned out it wasn't $1 billion, it was $8 million. And the 5 biggest spending cuts he bragged about on Doge's wall of receipts, as he called it, all 5 of them were pulled down within days when press reports noted that they were grossly exaggerated or non-existent. Now, in all fairness, I shouldn't say he can't count. That was unfair, because he can in one regard. When it comes to the amount the same federal government that he's trying to rip to shreds is benefiting him, he's A-OK. Let me read from the Washington Post this morning. Over the years, Musk and his businesses have received at least $38 billion in government contracts, loans, subsidies, and tax credits, often at critical moments, helping seed the growth that has made him the world's richest person. So let me sum this up with the obvious. When it is the government benefiting you, that is waste and inefficiency. And when it's the government benefiting Elon Musk to the tune of a mere $38 billion, that's what government is for. You know, we are the biggest saps in the history of the planet Earth. It is just unbelievable.
Okay, we are out of time, Jim. Thank you very much.
Well,
Coming up after the 1 o'clock news, we're going to be joined by State Auditor Diana DiZoglio for our first ever Ask the Auditor. She's going to take your questions and ours. And the first one, I think, Jim, is will you and I, Diana DiZoglio, and everybody else be dead before the legislature ever opens up its proceedings to the taxpayers, as the taxpayers demanded in a vote, and of course it's taxpayers that pay their salaries. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston
Sustainer and your credit or debit card has expired, it's time to update your information. Take just a few minutes to make sure your information is current. Go to gbh.org/update, and thank you for your support.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Celebrity Series, presenting An Evening with Meow Meow, live at Sanders Theater on March 15th, featuring a performance of full cabaret classics, covers, and sparkling wit and humor. Tickets at celebrityseries.org. And Mass General Brigham Health Plan, ranked /1 in member satisfaction among commercial health plans in Massachusetts by J.D. Power for the second consecutive year. Details at mgbhp.org/everyday.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, ahead on hour
Appliance Week here on Boston Public Radio. First, dishwasher dust-ups, then washing machine myths. Do you separate dark colors from light or not? Today, the unspoken rules, quirks, and annoyances around your shower head. Low flow, high pressure, rain and nozzles. The pressure is on next on the third hour of Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump is taking reporters' questions at his first cabinet meeting at the White House. He's confirmed that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is coming to Washington, D.C. Friday, apparently to sign a deal giving the U.S. access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals.
So we're going to get our money back, and we're going to get a lot of money in the future, and I think that's appropriate because we have taxpayers that shouldn't be footing the bill.
Zelensky, whose country was invaded by Russia 3 years ago, is pressing for security guarantees. When asked about that today, Trump said guarantees would be up to Europe. The conversation then turned to the cost-cutting entity known as the Department of Government Efficiency. Trump yielded the floor to Doge architect Elon Musk, who addressed the cabinet and reporters wearing a black ball cap and a tech support T-shirt under a suit jacket. Musk defended his work.
We spend a lot on the Defense Department, but we're spending over $1 trillion on interest. If this continues, the country will become de facto bankrupt. It's not an optional thing, it is an essential thing. That's the reason I'm here.
But among critics, public anger continues to mount over the way Doge is leading government-wide staff and funding cuts. Trump invited cabinet members to speak up to express any dissatisfaction with Musk, but quickly added, quote, "We'll throw them out if they actually spoke up," eliciting laughter in the room. Many Republican voters are saying they'd like to see President Trump impose stricter regulations on the healthcare industry. Noam Levy with KFF Health News reports.
Not long ago, it would have been rare to hear a Republican voter calling for more government regulation. But attitudes are changing as Americans grow frustrated with a healthcare system many see as unfair and unaffordable. That's a big reason why a lot of Trump voters are surprisingly open to ideas like new caps on patients' medical bills and government limits on what drug companies and hospitals can charge. Charles Milliken is a retired auto mechanic. He says he's expecting to see some serious price controls from the new president.
I think he's going to put a cap on what what insurance companies can charge, what doctors can charge, what hospitals can charge.
Milliken is among several Trump voters I spoke with about their hopes for the new administration. In one recent poll, 75% of Trump voters said they wanted the government to regulate hospital prices.
Noam Levy reporting. The Trump administration is now directing federal agencies to develop plans for the larger-scale elimination of positions. That is according to a new memo from the Office of Management and Budget and the Office of Personnel Management. Again, President Trump is currently holding his first cabinet meeting at the White House. The Dow Jones Industrial Average down 137 points at 43,483. The Nasdaq is up nearly 100 points and the S&P is up 11. From Washington, this is NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Local resettlement agencies are looking for further guidance after a federal judge blocked President Trump's ban on admitting new refugees. Sarah Bedford with the Jewish Family Services of Western Massachusetts says they're waiting to see what comes next.
What we would hope to happen is that refugees who were ready and approved and booked for travel and had spent years going through the process of resettlement processing and background checks could move forward and arrive to the United States and be served by the communities willing to welcome them.
The judge ruled that the administration's ban likely violates the Refugee Act of 1980 and the Fifth Amendment's Due Process Clause. The lead plaintiff is a 22-year-old refugee from the Congo who was approved to travel with his family but saw their flight canceled after Trump's order. MBTA General Manager Phil Eng says that when the South Coast Rail begins service in late March, weekend trips will be free through the end of April. Eng made the announcement to the MBTA Board of Directors during its monthly board meeting, adding that he is super excited about starting commuter rail service from Boston to Fall River to New Bedford and Taunton. It's an area of the state that has not seen passenger rail since 1958. In sports, the Celtics in Detroit tonight for a game against the Pistons. Exhibition baseball, Red Sox just getting underway with Tampa Bay this afternoon. And in the forecast, mostly sunny, high near 50 today. Could see some rain overnight. Lots of rain tomorrow, high in the 40s. We're at 49 degrees in Boston right now. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. As a fiduciary, Fisher Investments is obligated to act in their client's best interest. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss. This is NPR.
He is Jim Browdy. I am Marjorie Egan. Welcome to hour number 3 of Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live at the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. A week from today, same time, 1 o'clock, I'm going to be joined here at the library by the Attorney General of the Commonwealth, Andrea Campbell. Hello again, Jim.
Hello again, Marjorie. We're joined now at the library desk for a BPR First, Ask the Auditor with State Auditor Diana DiZoglio. We'll open lines for the next 30 minutes for you to ask questions of her, make comments. It's 877-301-8970. If you're at the library, if you find our colleague Nicole, who is standing right there, hello, Nicole, how are you? She will listen to what you have to say and consider putting you on the show there. Auditor DiZoglio, nice to see you. How are you?
Great to be back.
Yeah,
Great, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for coming in, Auditor DiZoglio. So I made a little joke we were going out before you came in about how, Jim and I will be dead. You could be dead. Most people listening right now could be dead before the legislature ever does what was 72% of voters in Massachusetts wanted. Was it 72%? They wanted you to be able to audit the legislature, but it hasn't happened yet, and I do feel like it may never happen.
Yeah, don't lose hope. But thank you for saying that, because honestly, it is, I think, the feeling of a lot of people right now. Look, friends, our good and wonderful Democratic colleagues of mine on my side of the aisle did go in yesterday and unfortunately vote down an amendment in the House of Representatives that was filed that would have simply required the House of Representatives to follow the law. It literally just said that the House of Representatives will follow Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 11, Section 12, which is the audit law that you all voted for. Unfortunately, there was a lot of strong-arming. The Speaker of the House made his calls to whoever he needed to. The henchmen were out, making sure folks were following the Speaker's lead. And I would be remiss not to say that there was one very courageous, brave woman, Michelle Badger.
One Democrat,
Michelle Badger. She had committed to me and to her district that she was going to vote for this. She's the only Democratic colleague and friend of mine who did not cave yesterday and actually took that vote. And I have to say, having been in her shoes before, that's not an easy thing to do in there. So if you have Representative Badger in your district, give her a call. Tell her thank you so much. She's very courageous. She did the right thing.
You should give an update on her, though. She's been locked out of her office, by the way, today. So,
they moved into the basement, Jim. That's what they did.
We'll let the listeners, if they have questions about the state of the thing, ask it, with one exception. The Attorney General, we've asked her repeatedly, as I know of you, about if there's an issue of constitutionality, a separation of powers thing, let's get to it. Let's find out if there is. And if there isn't, then the audit's going to proceed, and you'll represent the auditor's office. If there is, then say it. My reading, she was with us on January 14th. Andrea Campbell should be back next week. It seems to me what she is saying is, here it is. So what we're looking at now is what is it the auditor wants specifically from the legislature, and how are they going to respond? Once that's finalized, and there is a dispute, which is a term of art, by the way, we then have to do an analysis on who we will represent, meaning the legislature or you. It seems to me that what's going on now, and by the way, we've invited the Speaker and the Senate President to join us in the past about this. They don't even answer. Well, I think one of them did answer, but they don't come, which I think means because they can't defend their position, or they probably would come. Regardless, it seems to me that what the legislature is doing is we're never going to create a dispute because we're never going to formally say no. And Andrea Campbell seems to be saying, until they say yes or no, there's no role for me. Am I right about what her position is in your estimation?
You seem right about what the Attorney General's position is.
Okay, what's your position about what she should do?
I think it's very simple. The Attorney General has taken some very strong stances, namely with the MBTA Communities Act. She's taken some very strong stances when it comes to President Trump, with Doge, with all of these different things that you've been talking about on here, but yet still refuses to take a position on this issue.
Well, she told me she voted for it. I asked her last month. She said she voted yes, as did Maura Healey, by the way, tell us she voted yes. So what's the agenda in your estimation?
Well, sure, the Attorney General voted for this. It would have been nice to have received any sort of semblance of support during the election cycle. We didn't receive it from either, actually. And again, I work very well with both of these women on a host of other issues. We do need to be able to discuss this issue, however, very candidly and honestly, which, if we're doing so, people can say they voted for this all day long. I have legislators telling me, Jim, that they voted for this and then they went in yesterday and they voted against it. So it's pretty easy to say that you voted for something to give yourself cover in your communities so that the 72% of people who told you to do this don't get angry at you and might say, well, they're all doing their best. But, actions speak louder than words. And people can say all day long that they voted for something, when nobody was looking. But, right now, this is a time in Massachusetts where we have an opportunity to actually get some transparency about what's going on with our tax dollars. And the only individual that I'm aware of in this state who is able to enforce the law that we voted on, that legislators are breaking outright right now, is our Attorney General. So she's taken such strong positions on so many other things, and we are calling on her to do the same. There was not a big analysis that needed to be done on a lot of the things that I've seen the Attorney General's office come out on. Now, what the Attorney General's office, just for clarification's sake, is asking of the Office of State Auditor right now is for us to explain why and how we're conducting our audit.
Why shouldn't you do that?
Before she will decide to sign with us.
So why shouldn't you do that?
Well, the thing is, Jim, is that we've told the Office of the Attorney General many, many, many times, here is what we're looking at, here is the scope of our audit. We actually already conducted an audit, and that audit just wasn't participated in by the legislature.
That was publicly available information.
That's up on our website. We've said we are going back to conduct this audit again, but we're asking that the legislature actually participate in it again. That's the scope of the audit. And right now, the only thing that we've requested are areas of high risk, because we know that should there be any sort of question that they could potentially manipulate into this whole, constitutional argument, that they will seek to trigger that. So we've actually been purposefully, friends, very careful in the beginning stages of this audit to ensure that for now what we're doing is asking, let's see the financial documents, let's see the financial receipts, let's see the state contracts, let's see those settlement agreements that have to do with those non-disclosure agreements, just like we did for all these other state agencies recently. And we've been very careful to limit our requests at this point for the purposes of getting it started, so that it's not even in question what we're asking for.
And the legislature essentially is stonewalling. They're not really answering.
What they want us to do, and what the Attorney General's office seems to also want us to do, is to say that we are seeking other information than what we are currently seeking, so that they can trigger a potential constitutional argument. And that is what we're not willing to do, and that's why there's this back and forth right now, because we're not giving them the constitutional complaint that they're seeking. We're saying, no, we're still asking for financial documents. We're asking for, these non-disclosure settlement agreements, state contracts, but we can't even get access to those things.
Okay, so we're going to take calls in a second. One last question before we get to the calls. Do you find it helpful that a fellow Democrat, the Senate president, in a comment on WBZ, compared you to Donald Trump? Did you find that to be helpful in this whole scheme of things, or no?
I do find it interesting that one of the people who is running the authoritarian regime at the State House right now in the legislature saw fit to make that type of a comment. That was kind of ironic, but she's not the first. She won't be the last. Look, the whole situation with Trump, Doge, everything that's happening at the federal level, seems to have empowered some of my Democratic colleagues right now to be able to, in their own minds, try to paint this audit as though it is similar to what's happening at the federal level. forgetting to mention that unlike Elon Musk, I am elected. Contrary to popular opinion, I'm not a billionaire. I live in Methuen. I have housemates. I live in actually an MBTA Communities zoned neighborhood, which I voted for, by the way.
We'll get to that.
But also,
you left out 72% of the public.
But also,
voted
yes,
to support your thing.
One minor thing. Yeah. This was a democratically voted for thing that is occurring right now. This audit was voted for by you. It's not something that, the governor is telling me to do. I am not appointed by the governor. Like Doge is the Doge appointment is done by the president. So we answer only to the people. And this is what you told us to do, and we're doing it. And shame on the authoritarian regime at our state house for trying to block the will of the people.
That should go well for you. Let's go take some calls, Marguerite.
Armani in Boston. Thank you for calling, Armani.
You're on with the auditor, Armani. Hi.
Hi, yes. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Awesome. So my name's Armani White. I'm opening a dispensary in Hyde Park. It's called Firehouse.
Yep.
And we want everyone to come by. But the reason I'm calling is that we basically have growing concerns about reports that certain license owners are exceeding the state's ownership limit of 3 licenses. And this gives them an unfair advantage in wholesale purchasing power and retail price setting, making it harder for equity businesses and black-owned businesses like mine to compete. So, for example, the multi-state operator Ascend Wellness has been accused of exceeding the license limits twice, and there are rumors of other owners doing the same exact thing. So, I'm curious if your office has conducted an audit of the Cannabis Control Commission's ownership records to ensure these limits are being enforced, and if not, would you consider doing so to help protect the integrity of the state's equity programs?
Armani, excellent question. Equity is built into the law, and so is the 3 ownership limit. Go ahead, Auditor.
I love this question. Thanks so much, and congratulations on opening your dispensary. I'd love to get an invitation if I could stop by. I will do my best. We'll try to get you a citation. Armani, this is part of my social justice and equity audit plan where diversity, equity, and inclusion were very much part of the campaign platform that I put forward before I was elected to this position. And I did talk about utilizing the auditor's office to make sure that we were conducting equity audits across the state of Massachusetts, across our state entities and departments. And we have been able to do so through audits of, for example, the Supplier Diversity Office. And we've talked about this before on here, Jim, I think when you were still on TV and I came on the show to talk about this, it was actually a GBH report that found that less than 1% of state contracts in the state of Massachusetts go out to minority-owned businesses. That is absolutely unacceptable in a state like Massachusetts. We did an audit of the state's Supplier Diversity Office, and we made recommendations to them about how to increase access to opportunities with state contracts. What you're talking about seems to sound like you're talking about some issues and challenges potentially related to the Cannabis Control Commission, which I know hasn't been in the news at all recently. But the Inspector General did do an investigatory report, which is the IG's role, on some of the challenges that they've had over there internally. Your issue seems to be very much in line with what we do in the auditor's office, and we actually are working right now on a follow-up report to the Cannabis Control Commission audit that we've already done on product in different sectors across the state. But we're actually doing a follow-up audit that does have to do with the social equity component. We've gotten a lot of complaints regarding those HCAs that were out there. We've been working with a lot of local business owners like yourself, and I invite you to contact my office.
How about if we leave him on hold and we get his contact information?
Let's get your contact information.
And
put us in touch.
your office will reach out.
Yeah, we'd love to follow up and continue this conversation. But the short answer is yes.
Don't go away, Armani. We're going to put you on hold and get the contact info and share it with the auditor's office. Thank you, Armani, for your call.
Here's a text from a low-income senior who says that she supported you, she voted for you, and she canvassed for you in your recent ballot question as well, but she's upset with your position on the MBTA Communities Act being an unfunded mandate. She says that she's very concerned about much-needed housing, and she's worried that it's going to delay that housing because of your position as an unfunded mandate. So what's the deal?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for the support. We are actually on the same side of the MBTA Communities Act issue. I voted for it. I strongly supported it. I still support it. I live in an MBTA community. I actually advocated for my city council to pass the zoning reforms, and I live in an MBTA zoned neighborhood myself. Having said all that, I do find it incredibly unfortunate right now that I've been receiving calls that folks seem to think that the Division of Local Mandates in our office has any authority to stop the law, mess with the law, rewrite the law, or have anything to do with the current law.
So why'd you bother saying what you said if you have no power?
The SJC has the authority, and I'll get to that, Jim. The SJC has the authority to determine what the law states. They have determined this law is a mandate. Agree or disagree, they've determined this law is a mandate. When they did not determine that yet, this law was in question as to whether or not it was a mandate. When the law was determined to be a mandate, we did have multiple communities reach out to our Division of Local Mandates and the Office of State Auditor, who actually stated, this is a mandate now, we need a determination on whether or not it's funded. Well, the team went in, they looked at the law, and they found out that since this was deemed a mandate now, even though people didn't think it was before and it was optional, you would just lose a few grants. Now that it was deemed a mandate, it is required under the law to have a funding mechanism. Now, having said this, okay, the funding mechanism component does not mean that communities do not have to comply with the law, which some have suggested that they feel they are able to now not comply with the law because a funding mechanism was not put into place yet.
So what was that? I say again, what was the point of your finding if it turns out it has no effect?
The Division
on
of
the
Local
law?
Mandates is required by law to actually respond to the requests from these different communities. So the only thing they said is, look, this is not funded in accordance with the local mandate law, and because it's not funded in accordance with the law, you need to make sure that it is. They did this with early voting, friends. When we voted for early voting in the legislature when I was in the Senate, the communities that we represented subsequently came to us and they said, this was not funded. We'd love to expand voting opportunities. We're with you, but we don't have the resources to be able to do X, Y, and Z. The Division of Local Mandates and the Office of State Auditor said, hey, this law, great, wonderfully intended, very well intentioned, but you forgot to put the funding component in there that's required under the law to make sure these communities' clerks' offices can actually conduct these elections appropriately and in accordance with the law. Subsequently, that funding ended up actually materializing, and there haven't been any lawsuits.
Okay,
to
so
my
let me read to you from what the Attorney General statement says in response to what your office did. The first half I know you won't agree with, but sounds like you agree with the second half. We'd like to know. The auditors claim that this is again from Andrea Campbell's office. The auditors claim that the MBTA Communities law is an unfunded mandate is wrong. I know you disagree with that. Here's the second half. And more importantly, this letter, meaning yours, has no effect whatsoever on implementation of law. You agree with that, correct?
Yes.
You do?
Yes, that's why I was actually surprised when the response was quite harsh in nature, Jim, because I'll be real with you. When I saw that, I thought to myself, the letter never claimed that. It was an FYI. It is a responsibility of the Division of the Local Mandates to respond to communities. The attorneys in the Division of Local Mandates did their job. They responded. They said, yes, this does need to have a funding mechanism associated with it. Communities have the right to petition court for any reason whatsoever if they feel like they are not being funded. But this is a very simple fix. The Attorney General is right. This does not have an impact on the law or whether or not any community has to follow it. That's been decided. This is a pretty easy fix on the funding component. There's already been a grant set up by EOHLC, Housing and Livable Communities. And that grant fund that was set up, part of the intention of that grant funding was to help to cover the costs of any community who said that they couldn't comply because there were funding challenges in terms of complying with this law. The only challenge and the reason why it doesn't technically cover that local mandate law is because it is discretionary funding. So it's a grant program. That means that communities have to go in, they have to apply for a grant and then get it, and that is not actually something that fulfills that legal requirement. So all the legislature has to do, and I'm happy to help draft legislation alongside of some of our reps and senators who have already agreed to file legislation to get this fixed pretty quickly to ensure that those costs are guaranteed coverage.
All they have to do is fund the mandate.
They just have to fund the mandate, and there's already a fund set set up to fund
Just
it.
one thing, because I don't think I understand it. I can't be the only one.
Sure.
Fund the putting together the zoning, because I would assume a developer is going to be footing the bill for the actual building of the housing. So is this, what do they have to fund?
The community's compliance with law. Is that
The community's
What does
compliance
that
with
mean,
the law.
though? Does that mean that-
consultants, planning and design,
Okay,
and not every community wants to go along with the developer's plan. Some
Okay.
developers are acting pretty greedy right now in this process. Not all, but some are being very forceful in pushing forward their agenda. I've gotten a lot of calls from developers who are very upset because they want their money for these developments and they want it now. And they don't like that there has been this wrinkle in the process that needs to be ironed out because the law is a mandate.
Okay.
But this does have to
Got
get
it.
done. It's very
Got it.
easily solved, and we're going to propose language to help to fix this quickly to ensure that these folks understand that they are required to get funding. They should get funding from the state, and they also should understand that the law is the law and it does need to be followed.
We're talking to the State Auditor, Diana DiZoglio. You can reach her at 877-301-8970. Brian from Attleboro, thank you for calling.
Hey, Brian.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
I was wondering about the unfunded mandate law, and I heard you guys follow up and talk about it a little bit. What I'm curious about now is, how does the state plan to force a town like Grantham to build housing if they're not going to do it? What's the mechanism? Is it going to be fines, or people in jail for contempt of court, or what?
Brian, thanks for the call.
Yeah, so the Attorney General does have the ability to enforce the law. She's been very clear that that's what she intends on doing. And she did make a statement the other day that should, anybody believe that this is a reason not to follow the law, she is planning on taking up the issue in court. So I'm assuming that that still stands.
And they will withhold, Governor Healy said they'll withhold grants from these communities. In fact, I think didn't they do a firefighter's grant in one community was withheld? I think. I'm not sure what
I don't know
picked
that was a good idea.
Yeah, I will say that I did speak with the senator for that area, Senator O'Connor, recently, who did call me to talk about what this actually means. He had told me that he had had a conversation with the local municipal officials to set the expectations. I believe that's why you haven't heard a lot of commentary about this yet, because folks are still reading that letter, contemplating what it means, and coming to the understanding that this is about the funding mechanism. This is not about what the law says or doesn't say. That was the Attorney General's call, and it is the SJC's call, not our office's call.
John in the road has a question that tons of texters are asking. So, John, you ask it. Welcome to the show, John. Hi.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good, thank you.
Forgive me for my political ignorance. I don't know too much, but I did vote for this, and I was just wondering if there was any way we could help you in accomplishing the goal on the audit, because I find it kind of strange that the vote won by, over 70%, and we're still fighting about this.
That's an excellent question. So you want to know, as many texters do, what can real people do to help this law happen, it be in effect, John? Thanks for the call. What's the answer, Auditor DiZoglio?
Call the Attorney General's office. You should just have me and the AG on at the same time, Jim. We could just get all these questions over with.
We'll ask her if she'll appear with you. You'd appear with her?
Do we what?
You'd appear with her?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We'll ask her next week if she'll appear with you.
Look, folks, just because we have disagreements on
spoke
different
well of you
issues,
too,
just
by the
because
way.
we have disagreements does not mean that your elected officials are not, working together on a host of other issues. There are disagreements. That's what happens when you're doing work at this level.
What issues are you working with the Speaker and the Senate President
Hold on, we
together?
don't know.
I know, you're right, I was a joke. Go ahead, answer, John. What
They do have to be willing to speak back with me, I think, Jim, is the thing.
So they should call the Attorney General. What else?
Call the Attorney General, please, and please advocate, for the AG's office to take a position, because full disclosure, our office is unfortunately drafting a writ of mandamus right now to ask the Attorney General to please fulfill the duties of her office.
You're going to ask a court to force her to take sides?
To take a position, yes.
You're going to court for that?
Well, we have to file something, Jim, because
who's going to represent you if she doesn't?
We have an in-house general counsel right now. We've talked to some folks who have volunteered. Nobody's come on yet, but I will tell you, I would very much love to have the AG's support on this issue for the people of this Commonwealth. I have been asking over and over and over and over again, much to the chagrin of Madam AG, who I don't really think has appreciated me consistently and over again asking for help publicly. But it's all that we have, because the formal requests that we've been making, and we have been making them, they have gone really unanswered regarding whether or not she is planning to represent us. We're at a standstill, I would say, in terms of being able to continue to communicate about this with the AG's office, because what they're doing essentially is they keep asking us about the details of what we're planning to do, how we're planning on doing it, but have not committed to actually representing us. Now, what happened last time they asked for these details, and why my office is concerned, is because the last time that the Attorney General's office asked us to detail our plan regarding auditing the legislature, they used everything we told them to build a case for legislative leaders in a 17-page defense of the Speaker, the Senate President, and the legislature's refusal to be audited. And the ballot question was born subsequently. So the reason why we are at a point where we are asking for an actual determination about if she's going to represent the people is because we believe we've explained as much as we possibly can without knowing if she's going to be the people's attorney or the Speaker and Senate President's attorney, or stay out of it. So those determinations need to be made. And that's all that this writ of mandamus would ask for. It wouldn't, force her to take our side. It would just say, this has to move forward at some point.
She's got to make a decision.
You have to make a decision.
Okay.
Are you with us?
Wow.
Not with us? Whatever it is, I have, respect for that being her decision. But we need to move forward.
So you mentioned State Auditor DiZoglio getting in touch with the Attorney General on this, but other people have asked, including Mark from North Dighton, what specific points should we hit? Is there anything they should say? They're not sure what they should say when they write to the Attorney General.
Please represent us.
Okay.
That's
Please
simple.
represent us.
Okay.
She's done a great job on other fronts. I commend her for her work on a lot of other issues, and I mean that sincerely. I really would love her to support the people on this. What a great opportunity to stand up for transparency for 72% of the voters in the state. It would be an opportunity missed. I hope the AG takes the opportunity. So please ask her. Please represent us.
Beyond the 72%, we had the chair of the State Democratic Committee, Steve Kerrigan, on about a week or two ago. I think he told us when we asked that the State Democratic Committee unanimously endorsed your question. Is that not right?
Yeah.
So the Democratic Committee, capital D, unanimously endorsed it, and the House of Representatives, Democrats, unanimously, with one exception, opposed it, even though the state committee supported it. Okay, we have time for one more quick one. Alexis in Cambridge, you're on with the auditor, Diana DiZoglio. Hi.
Hi, thank you.
Sure.
This is actually just praise. I want to thank you for speaking so eloquently and intelligently about the issues, and you actually inspired me before Election Day to contact my representatives and ask about question 1 and if they supported it. Unfortunately, after 3 efforts trying to reach Marjorie Decker, I gave up. And Patricia Jalen basically gave me a roundabout answer that it wouldn't matter if it passed anyway because we wouldn't get the information that we want. Like, you wouldn't be allowed to get information regarding how they vote, et cetera. Anyway, I'm hearing an echo, so I just want to say I'm one of the 72%, and I think you're doing a great job, and you have my support, and I am going to call them and ask about their vote and stay more involved with the situation at hand and the transparency that's lacking, because you're an inspiration, and thank you for your hard work.
Thanks, Alexis.
Thank you so much, Alexis. Yeah, it's thank you. We can't do anything that we're doing right now without your continued support. It is a lonely place up on Beacon Hill right now. I was just in your hood last night, actually. I was at the Cambridge State of the City address that was given. You did visit. That was given by our mayor. Got a great update, but I had the honor and privilege of seeing
I'm a big fan of Mayor
our
Simmons.
friend Mayor Simmons did a great job. She gave a great speech.
Okay.
Great speech. But
And?
anyways, so got the opportunity to see some of our legislative friends last night. I was, greeted by some, not greeted by others. But, it is interesting because even some of the members of the delegation who are a little bit more progressive have come out in opposition to this and used the same, constitutional argument. And I've said over and over again, look, if you have an issue with the constitutionality of this, that is for a court to decide. It is not for the legislature, which is under this audit law, to decide for themselves in opposition to the law that 72% of the voters just voted for. So let's get it before a court. Let's figure out who can do what, how they can do what, when they can do what, so that we can all follow the law.
Okay, so Diana DiZoglio, every time you're here, you're kind enough to end your appearance with a song. Will you do that today for us? Come on.
Yes.
Oh, you will?
Yes.
Okay, what are you going to sing?
I had the opportunity to meet Extreme recently.
Yeah.
Gary Sharon, everybody.
Oh.
It was really cool for me. I grew up listening to Extreme. And I bumped into them somewhere, and I found out that they were with the Audit. I was so excited. You should have seen me. I was like a little kid in a candy store when I heard that. And then, of course, because I sang, I asked immediately, "Can you sing More Than Words with me?" And they did, and it was great. So I will give that a little try right
Here's
now.
the auditor, Diana DiZoglio.
Saying I love you is not the words I want to hear from you. It's not that I want you not to say it, but if you only knew how easy it would be to show me how you feel. More than words is all you have to do to make it real. Then you wouldn't have to say that you supposedly voted for this, 'cause we'd already know.
Oh, Diana DiZoglio.
Dedicated to all of our Beacon Hill friends.
That was State
Good to see you,
Auditor Diana
Auditor. Thanks for your
DiZoglio.
time.
Thank you very much for
Thanks,
coming in for our first
everybody.
edition of Ask
Thanks
the
so
Auditor.
much.
Much appreciated. Okay, on a much more mundane note, this is Home Appliance Week here at Boston Public Radio.
Appliance Week.
First, we studied the dishwasher. Then we moved to the washing machine. Now, Jim, we're going where few have dared to go before, you and your shower head. How do you feel about your shower head? Is basically what's next on Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. The number is 877-301-8970.
I'm Arun Roth. Coming up on GBH's All Things Considered, Boston Mayor Michelle Wu is giving an update on how the city is tackling substance use. Governor Maura Healey is laying out her 2025 agenda to local business leaders. And millions of women suffer from endometriosis, a chronic, painful disease. But deep racial inequities in treatment persist, and black women are often overlooked. Those stories and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Boston Symphony Orchestra, presenting Tchaikovsky's Violin Concerto, March 13th through 16th at Symphony Hall, where music lives. Conducted by Teddy Abrams. More information at bso.org. And Elephant Energy, specializing in all-electric heat pumps from Mitsubishi Electric. Elephant Energy helps homeowners looking to reduce their carbon footprint. Learn more at elephantenergy.com.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. I'm Mark Dregan, Jim Browdy, live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. So as Marjorie said, I guess it's Home Appliance Week here on Boston Public Radio. We're continuing our discussion at the intersection of energy consumption and domestic strife. This time, shower pressure, but not just shower pressure. In a minute, I'll describe shower protocol. The great shower pressure debate has been raging in America since at least 2013, when then President Barack Obama set a 2.5 gallon per minute rule for shower heads nationwide. President Trump in 2020 said he was bringing back consumer choice by changing energy consumption rules, but in the same breath revealed his true motivations, and here they are.
So shower heads, you take a shower, the water doesn't come out. You want to wash your hands, the water doesn't come out. So what do? You just stand there longer, or you take a shower longer? Because my hair, I don't know about you, but it has to be perfect. Perfect.
Okay, so we've talked about dishwasher etiquette on the show, as Marjorie said. Yesterday we talked about laundry etiquette. On this edition of Appliance Week, it's shower heads. And in addition, do you take endless showers? Maybe the shower is your one remaining place of complete solitude and serenity in a busy world. How often do you take a shower? And when you do take a shower, what's that expression you use? What is it that you wash? What is that expression again?
The dirty bits.
Dirty bits.
Right.
Do you wash the dirty bits or do you wash the whole experience? Our number is 877-301-8970. You know what I learned in research for this? High pressure, low, what's it called? Low something or other. Low flow. High pressure, low flow. Do you know what happens? You take a shorter shower.
Yeah.
The pressure is what's determinative of how long you stay in the shower. So if you have one of those things, but the pressure is high, even if the flow is low, a la Barack Obama, we're going to be saving water and saving our environment.
Well, especially if you have thick hair and you can't get the soap out of your hair if you don't have high-powered, some power coming out of that shower head. So
Speaking of hair, what percentage of the American people wash their hair every day? I happen to know.
Oh, I had the notes, but I
One
can't
in
find
three.
it now. One in
Do you
three.
wash your hair every day?
No.
I do.
You do?
1 in 3 wash their hair every day?
Because I think a lot of people think it dries out
What
their
percentage
hair.
of the American people take a shower every day?
I think it's 69%.
60-some percent. 95% of Italians shower every day, and 90% of the Portuguese shower every day.
Wow, what's up with that?
That's exactly my question
And
to
I
you.
think
What is
people
up with that?
tend to shower more if they are married or living with a partner. I guess they're trying to make sure that their spouse or if their partner's not upset by
What's
their
going on
dirty
there?
bits not being as clean
And
as they
speaking
should
of
be.
dirty bits, can I define that for people?
Yep.
All the scientific experts that we've consulted, and we've read a lot of stuff today, say the only things you actually have to soap up, if I may, are your armpits.
Yep.
Your, what do we call that other thing?
Feet.
Your feet, and what's the thing in the middle
Private
called?
parts.
Private parts.
Yes.
If you do those 3 things, you do not need to, don't ask me why, to apply, soap to anything else.
That's right.
So we want to know if you adhere to that bits and pits thing, or if you have a broader spectrum of soaping that you do when you are in the shower. And where are you on the water pressure? Where are you on the water pressure issue?
Well, I never got one of those low flow
I have
shower
one.
heads,
I have
and
it.
I just had a regular shower head,
Yeah.
and the pressure's great, and you zip in
Yeah.
and you wash your hair and get out, or you just zip in, wash the dirty bits.
But if
and
it's
get
not
out.
low flow, you haven't done anything good for the environment that you care so deeply about. It's got to be high pressure and low flow.
I think I have high pressure, low flow.
No,
How
you
can you
don't.
tell if it's low flow?
What?
How can you
Did you
tell?
get a new one? Did you have
if it's
Mass
low-
Save come to your house?
I have had Mass Save come
No,
to my
you didn't.
house.
Did
I
you
have.
really?
Yeah, they come in and they give you all the lights.
They give you a free bulb.
They give you the bulbs. They give
Free
you a thing to put in
extension
the
cord.
sink. Yeah, free extension cord.
Yeah.
And I forget if you did something to the shower or not.
Well, who knows? Okay, they give you shower heads. They actually give
But
you
can you tell?
high
How
pressure.
do you tell if it's low flow though?
Here's what you tell. You have the Mass Save person. Is this a high pressure, low flow shower head?
Okay.
Yes, it is.
All
and then you
right.
know. That's how I knew.
888. What's the number?
I have no idea.
877-301-8970 is the number to call or text.
Renee and Pepperell, your first.
Oh, we're being corrected.
Not yet.
We're being corrected already.
What is it?
A texter says it's not the dirty bits; it's the naughty bits.
It is Naughty Bits.
Naughty
Actually,
Bits.
you're right. It is Naughty Bits.
Okay.
Our apologies.
Thank you.
It's Marjorie's fault. Renee and Pepperell, you are first on Boston Public Radio. Hi, Renee. What's going on?
Hey, Jim and Marjorie. Love you guys.
Thanks.
You give me a laugh a minute on your show.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, I love my 2.5-gallon shower head. I don't know if I could go any lower.
Yeah.
And I think it depends on what your water service is. When I had a well in my other house, the water pressure was not very good.
That's horrible.
But now that I'm served by municipal water, it's much stronger. And I'm one of those that showers, maybe once every 2 to 3 days, and then washes the dirty bits by hand.
Oh.
Later on. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and trying to save water. But I also have to say, Jim and Marjorie,
Yeah.
I tried to get on your show yesterday about the washing machine.
Yeah.
And I do have a funny story because, washing
Sure, why
machines do
not?
take up a lot of water.
Go ahead.
Ready,
Go
we're
ahead.
ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we used to have to hide our laundry. My mom and I, my entire family, from my grandmother, who was a laundry freak.
Yeah.
She would get bleach tracks on our laundry and all that. We put a lock on my mom's door. We put our stuff, our hamper stuff in her bedroom.
That is a good
and
story.
my grandmother was so upset. So that was our, one of our things with the laundry in our family. And my brother used to hide his clothes behind his bed because his hot sweaters would come out with arms as long as his legs. So
That's a pretty
one
good set of
the things.
stories. Hey, Renee, thank you for your call. We really appreciate it. 877-301-8970. We started with what kind of shower head do you have, but it's all shower protocol and etiquette and those sort of things. It's a broad shower discussion here. Let's go to Ken in Swansea. Hi.
Hi, Ken.
Yeah, hi. Long time, second time.
Thank you.
I just wanted to mention there was a whole episode on Seinfeld relative to the low-flow shower heads that were forced into.
Do you want to hear it?
Everybody goes
Hey, Ken,
along.
Ken, don't hang up because you came up. We'll play it for you. If this conversation has you thinking about the episode that Ken is mentioning, where Kramer and Newman buy high-powered shower heads out the back of a van like a drug deal, here it is.
All right, I got everything here. I got the Cyclone F Series, Hyperjet Flow, Stockholm Superstream, you name it.
What do you recommend?
Now, what are you looking for?
Power, man. Power. Like silkwood.
That's for radiation.
That's right.
No, what is this? That's the Commando 450. I don't sell that one. What about this?
No, that's what we want. It's a Commando 450.
No, believe me. It's only used in the circus. For elephants.
I'm sorry, Ken. That was a brilliant reference you made. Take it away.
Yeah, and by the way, the beginning of that, they indicate that all their hair is flat throughout the whole episode.
Right.
So, comical.
It was great.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, Jim, to finish one thing, you, on a previous call you commented on relative to Marjorie's peck on the cheek of the mayor over in Oak Grove Cemetery next to me, my relative.
Oh, my goodness. Oak Grove Cemetery.
Oh, yeah, Fall River.
That's
yeah.
right.
Former mayor. Yeah.
River.
He's still the mayor.
Right. You brought that up just before Christmas, the first time I called in.
Yeah.
So I got an amateur seance kit, and I consulted with my grandparents, and that's kind of like below the bar, peck on the cheek. So I think she's okay.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Ken.
By the way,
Thank
we
you,
should
Ken.
say this is when the mayor and Marjorie were in high school.
We were like
This is
12.
not a contemporary
we were
kind
little,
of thing.
We were little kids.
What's the guy's name again?
Paul Coogan.
Paul Coogan. He's
Little
the mayor.
little kids. Yeah,
Okay,
one
that's
of
what they
12
say.
children.
Now, Marjorie,
Yes.
Google, one of
Yes,
our
I
colleagues
saw
looked this
that.
up. Why don't you read it then?
To tell if you have a low-flow shower head, you can use a bucket to measure how long it takes to fill up with water from your shower. If it takes more than 24 seconds to fill a gallon bucket, then your shower head is considered low flow.
That's amazing.
So that's a little project I can do when I go home.
Oh, yeah, you'll be doing that.
That's right. And Mary from Framingham has some foam cleanser from Medline you can buy through Amazon with a nice vanilla scent, no rinse. You can use it on those in-between days for the feasts and the naughty bits and her pests as well. No water soaping up, rinsing off, and toweling not involved.
Did you say for the feets?
For the, did I say feets?
Feets, yeah.
I didn't mean to say feets. The plural is, of course, feet.
Now, do you know what the average shower time in the United States of America is?
I do not.
I do.
What is
Just
it?
short of 15 minutes. What is your hour?
15
It's
minutes
I'm
in the
with you.
shower?
It's ridiculous. What is your average shower
I'd
time?
say 5 minutes tops.
I'd say about 3
if
is
that.
where I am.
And the
High
hair,
pressure, low flow.
The hair is more. It takes more time because the thickness.
How
of the
often
hair.
do you wash your hair? I don't mean to pry, but how
Twice a week.
Really?
Yeah.
That's it?
Well, you see me every day. Does my
I
hair
do
look
see you.
okay?
Okay, let's take some calls. Ron in Seabrook.
Really? You're supposed to say my hair looks great.
It looks really
Thank
fine.
you very
It looks
much,
a
Jim.
little dirty, but it looks real. No, it looks nice. Ron in Seabrook, what's your thing here? Hi.
Hi. We live near the water tower. The pressure is great.
Yeah.
I'm kind of disappointed, but not really surprised with those statistics about frequency of bathing and hair washing.
So am I.
That's disappointing. But I have a caution.
Wait a minute, because you think it should be more often, Ron?
Of course it should.
Well, of course it should. Exactly. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I put in a shower head with a dial, and you could select various spray patterns.
Yeah.
One of them was a very high pressure pulsing blobs of
I love
water
those.
that could
Love that.
hit the back of your neck.
Oh.
It's very relaxing.
Love it.
But before I was used to it, I turned in such a way that I was struck in a sensitive spot.
Oh.
And I haven't been hit like that since I played hockey.
That's one of the saddest stories any
Ron,
listener's
I'm
ever told
sorry.
us. How you doing now?
was
You doing a
awful.
little better?
Oh, yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, good. Ron, thank you for sharing that intimate detail with us. We really appreciate it. 877-301-8970. Listen to this. Cold showers. By the way, we didn't mention this today. What does the auditor do every single morning after she wakes up, Marjorie?
She gets in some ice box.
Ice bath.
Yeah.
And she stays there not for like 5 seconds
I
like
don't know how
normal
she
people
does
do,
that.
like minutes.
I think it would wake you up, though.
Cold showers can save up to 3 times the carbon emitted in comparison to warm showers. That is according to crediblygreen.com. Wait a second. CNN says you should wash your hair at least every 2 to 3 weeks
Wow.
to keep your scalp. Some people don't wash their hair except for every 2 to 3 weeks.
Well, I think a lot of people with lots of hair, if you wash your hair every day, it's a big production, especially if you're going to blow dry it.
Well, it depends how much hair you have. But
That's
let me
right.
tell you something else. Do you remember about 10 years ago, I don't know if it was this station or the other one. Oh, it was this station. We had those people from some business in Kendall Square in Cambridge.
They were dirt.
The guy had
Yeah.
not taken a bath or a shower with water in 30 years or something?
What
did they do? They sprayed themselves
No,
with...
they washed with dirt or something. It was this really,
Yeah.
the dirt came in a container and they put it on their bodies.
did?
And supposedly it
How do you get the
absorbed-
dirt off?
Well, I don't know. I forget.
You
It was
lie
a
in the
while-
snow
it
in
was-
the backyard
I
like
don't-
yesterday?
I don't know, but they said they smelled fresh as
Do you remember
daisy.
what I did?
You whiffed them.
No, actually, Zoe
sniffed
just
them.
I went and sniffed his armpit.
You did.
On the air.
How was that?
It was actually quite refreshing.
Well, there you go.
It was actually quite
Okay,
nice. Thank you
okay.
so much. Let's take some more
People
calls.
are really into shower heads.
I know they are, of course. What are they saying?
A lot of people get their low shower heads from National Grid or Mass Save. The one from National Grid was strong. The person from Mass Save wasn't sure it was too strong. Good for rinsing your hair. I mean, it's the same thing. You have to have a powerful.
High pressure, low flow. Memorize those words, everybody. High pressure, low flow. Good for you, good for the environment. Andre in Rhode Island. Is this the Andre in Rhode Island?
Hello, that's
Oh, my
correct.
God. Where the hell have you been, Andre? I'm serious.
How you guys doing? I miss you guys.
We're so glad to hear from
very
you.
busy.
What's up, Andre?
Hey, I want to touch on something that Marjorie said.
Yes.
About, people that tend to have partners or spouses that, they take shower more. Well, here's something that's a little different. See, I'm extremely adorable and insanely sexy.
Yeah.
And so, as you know, with men, the sex drive goes down as they get older. With women, it goes up. My wife thinks I'm a teenager, so the only way I can get her up off me is I got to chill out with the shower.
I'm really glad you shared that with us, Andre. And that's working well?
It's work well. It's like those nature things. Like animals, they use their sense and everything.
Oh, yeah.
That's how it is.
Andre, is your wife available to talk to us or not?
Oh, she's at work and I'm at work.
Yeah.
I would love to have her on this show.
Have her call. Hey, Andre, we really miss you. Call us more frequently. It's great to hear your voice. Call again
Take
soon.
it easy, guys.
Yeah,
He's a
thank you for
really,
calling.
Andre's been with us for a long time. He's a really fine soul.
Remember how when before you bought your house and you went to apartments, that was
First
one
thing
of the
you
first
check.
thing you check was the water
Yeah.
pressure in the bathroom.
And do you find the people renting to you or selling are always nervous?
They're always nervous.
They're always nervous.
Their
It's not going
low
to work.
Water pressure
Exactly.
is going to be discovered because you can't be in a place with low water
Well,
pressure.
exactly. If you
Lots
loved
of
a
people
place-
saying Americans shower more than anybody else.
I think
Other
that-
places.
Well, not as frequently. I told you the Italy and Portugal thing.
Yeah, I thought that was people that came to the United States.
No.
Oh, Italians? and Portuguese
Italians
people?
in Italy, 90%,
Really?
95% every day. Portuguese in Portugal, 90% every day. I
okay.
think what we
All
do
right.
is we use more water in the showers, if I remember correctly, but I'm not 100% sure about that either.
Okay.
So let me ask you, let's get back to this. If you found the perfect place, new condo, your dream come true in every
Couldn't do
regard,
it. Couldn't
and the
do it.
shower pressure was not strong enough and it couldn't be fixed.
That would be a problem.
Me too.
Yeah, it's
Totally
one
me
of those
too.
basic things that you really want. You really want good water pressure, and you really want a nice sink. I'm really into sinks.
Me too. You know what I also do? I don't know if you've ever done this. When I've looked at places, I often ask if I can take a shower there. Have you ever done that while you're looking at a?
No, I've never done
I think it's a good thing to do because you don't know how long the
I've
pressure is
never
going to
done
last.
that.
Well, you should try it.
Somebody's telling us the Marriott hotels have really nice shower heads. Is that right?
No, I think they're joking that they take them. Remember we had that discussion?
Steal the shower heads?
No, they say if you can get away with stealing them, that's horrible.
That's pretty bad.
Timothy
Yeah,
in a
that's pretty
car. You got a minute. Welcome, Timothy. Hi.
I'll just tell you a quick thing. We bought a house 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And when we bought that house, there was basically no water pressure at all.
Yeah.
So the city came out, and the city actually put in new water, and my wife and I called it marriage renewal. It was unbelievable. So marriage renewal was the way. Then we got a low flow, but high pressure, and it's amazing ever since.
Okay, so I want to know, Timothy, why did the water pressure help your marriage?
Because originally we couldn't use the washer in the basement without having no water in the sink or in the shower.
Okay, that's a problem. Okay, so it made things more, you could get along better back at the house.
Thank you, Timothy. Now, can we end with this? Because I think this is illegal, but I'm not sure. Lucy in Walpole text, the last time I bought a really nice shower head, uninstalled it, and it was definitely low flow. So instead of taking it back, I watched a YouTube video, I've seen these too, on how to remove a piece of it to make it give out more water. And it worked, and it's an awesome shower head. And when I moved, I made sure I took it with me. The problem is when you take out the little disc, I think, that causes the low flow, you may be violating the law or local policy or some such thing. We'll check into that. We'll let you know tomorrow.
Did you mention that women like much hotter showers than
No,
men?
why don't you say that?
Sort of, well, yeah, I don't
How
know
hot do you
why.
like it?
Hot.
Really hot,
yeah,
right?
I like it hot.
Just short of burning.
But it's supposed to be bad for your hair.
It is?
Wash your hair in really hot water.
Okay,
yeah.
well, since you told us you don't wash your hair, you don't have to worry about that
wash
much.
my hair. I just don't wash it every day.
Okay, fine.
It dries it out, Jim.
Okay, fine.
Dries
We're done,
it out.
Marjorie.
Okay, we are done.
Clock says we're done.
Okay, thank you very much for listening
Thank you
to another
very much.
edition of Boston Public Radio. Thanks to everybody who came down to the Boston Public Library. Thank you very much. You can keep up with this
Marjorie's
24/7 by
applauding
way of
for
our
herself
podcast.
here.
I always do. Or check out our TikTok page at Boston Public Radio. Tomorrow we're going to be joined by political commentator
Culture Show.